Good morning, everyone. August 10th, 2021, Effingham Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'm Chuck Fuller. To my right is Lenny Espy. To my left is Tom Hart. Before we get going today, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any additions to the agenda, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll move to the signature folder. The Selectmen's minutes for July 27, 2021. We did not pass those already, did we not?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion to pass the Selectmen's meeting minutes from July 27, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
There are two Selectmen's non-public meeting minutes for August 3rd. RCH paving proposal. 2 pallets worth of paving was in there. Approval of corrected manifest dated August 5th, 2021. The corrected amount was $43,651.22. There was a notice of intent to cut and an application for a tax exemption. We have 2 manifests to approve. The first, I'll make a motion to approve the August 12th dated 2021 manifest in the amount of $39,492.78. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
And the second one is a last minute manifest in the amount, again, dated August 12th, 2021. For the amount of $155,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
All right. In the mail, there's a couple of things we're going to review during the business part of the meeting. Let's see, announcements.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
You need to approve the non-public minutes. You
Oops.
said they were in the signature folder, but
Thank you for catching that. Make a motion to approve the first non-public meeting minutes dated August 3, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote to approve the second non-public meeting minutes from August 3rd, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest. Announcements. September 7th meeting for the selectmen is going to be moved to September 8th due to the Labor Day holiday. And the September 14th meeting will be moved to Wednesday, September 15th. So that the selectmen, some of the budget committee and the office staff can attend a workshop around budget and finance put on by NHMA. And administrative comments.
I don't have any updates from last weekend. Some of the action items I'm still working on are the Primex. I did take a new note to follow up with the street lights to see if it can finally get some of them turned off. But nothing new to add.
And when we get into the work session, we talked about the budget this morning. One of the budget sheets is the streetlights, and a whole bunch of things I want to review with that on there to get a feel by the board from a direction standpoint.
Okay.
So, anything else, Audrey? Okay. Did we hear from Clean Harbors at all about a scheduled date?
They're waiting for a truck that's going to be in the area. I did follow up
That's
with them
good.
last week, so
No, that's good. All right. Just want to make sure we're still on target.
we are.
All right. Lenny.
Did we get a estimated delivery date of the waste oil thing?
I didn't ask. I can inquire. I think
Oh,
they're estimating.
No, I just want, I gotta keep prodding Kevin to finish that building, so we can just put it right in there, so.
Yeah, when I was down there the other day after the rain, there was minor
Yeah,
moisture.
he's gaining on it, but I think if he could just finish it and flash it, and we'll put up a gutter, and
We'll do it.
hopefully that would take care of it. It's just, he's a busy man, so,
Not even.
I mean, if I knew we had a 10-day window, I'd say you gotta have it done, so. That's the only thing on that. I'm not gonna talk about beavers, so, in culverts. So, we all know that they're, any idea who cleaned the culvert out Sunday on Clough Road?
I went up and it was definitely cleaned out and everything that had been in it was pushed downstream.
Right. Whoever did it got in a brook. was no-
It might have been Mike, because I got a text from him last night that he took 2 beaver out of there.
Oh, yeah,
So he might have been the one that actually did it.
okay, because I didn't know he had been called, but,
I didn't see anything lifted out, so it had to be pulled out or pushed
Right.
out. from-
yeah, I took what I could Saturday out of there, but I couldn't reach in there, standing on top of the culvert.
No.
But when I told you I'd go Friday to check it from Snow Road Bridge, the thing was right there putting it back, and they just cleaned it out that morning. He was right there already building it back, so. And the water had been in the road, it had come up into the
It
road,
had, yeah,
Yeah.
it was close. when I got
so
there.
they opened it up, but it was right there. I almost had him with my potato digger, but he did a somersault, went back in the culvert, and I waited for him again, he come back out, and I swung again, and he did another somersault and back in the culvert, and then he went upstream, so. Then-
Awesome engineers for the town.
Oh, they are, yeah.
You know, and I tried to call Joe DeShane, see if he was in the area, come over and shoot it, because it was just hanging around. So he told me he's working Saturday night, so I told him, if you're in the area, stop and chat.
So I followed up with Chris after Friday afternoon to find out, get an updated quote on doing a wedge receiver
Yeah,
for that culvert, and the one on Townhouse Road, that's the big one, right near where the blow down is on the corner there. So he's, within the next week or two, I should have a number on that. I can take a look at.
I mean, Clough Road one, the delineator posts were gone, I don't even know where they were.
There were 2 of them leaning against the,
And now there's one leaning up.
yeah,
But there was 3 of them there that I had leaned up, and they were gone, so maybe Evans took it out when they tried to clean it out. And there was one back there, so maybe they found it and just leaned it up there, I don't know, but, and then you're aware of the washout on Townhouse that we fixed last year.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I happened to drive by that one.
Yeah, I've
before
seen
all the
it.
emails.
There's no header there, so
Right.
Yeah.
that's why.
Just pull it in there.
Just asked, it's time to,
So I mean,
Fix
there's chunks of granite at the transfer station that could be well used there, so,
that and rip wrapping will be done. And
yeah. I don't think we'd need the riprap if they put the header in there on each side and across the top, I think it'd be all right. If they put riprap in there, just like. slope-
Not now.
No,
They
no,
gotta
no,
fix it
yeah.
first.
Okay, that's all I got. I'm not gonna talk about beavers and culverts.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Mr.
all righty. I spoke to Danny Jordan, who's a roadside brush mowing, about the roadside brush mowing.
Yeah,
He got himself a tractor in BoS Aug, and I have a drive around with him on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So if that before then, I know I spoke with you a little bit when, Friday on the bridge. If we wanted to win sections, like Lenny brought up, just take a section of town, concentrate on that, and then next year move them on to the next section, or whatever we have.
Do you know if that's on an arm, BoS Aug on an arm?
I don't
That
know,
he can
I'll
go
give you a
up.
call Thursday, let you know.
Yeah,
Well, he says that we'll do a 4-inch tree.
yeah. Because if it's on an arm, I mean, that'd be nice, because we could just reach up and
Right.
get the brush that's growing over, yeah.
I'll let you know that on Thursday, I'm done with them. I rode the road yesterday, looked pretty good, there's a couple spots. And that was more lines too at the same time, looking at what intersections are really bad and what signs you can't see. There's quite a few.
and I think we need to put another no through truck sign on 100th Bridge.
Right, I looked at that too, I saw what
Coming
you were
down
talking
here, you
about.
Can't see it at this point until you're starting down the road.
So you want to put one on the left side too, one on the right, you want one on the left too.
Yeah, because when you start, as you start to make the turn,
Mhm.
you'll see the one on the left side. I looked at it this morning coming by and looking at the dirt, it looks like some of the trucks are still going over.
All right. And do we know anything what's going on with the house down here? I haven't really been in touch with Rebecca.
You know, I heard
Is the office heard anything more? Okay. I never touched it.
Which house are you talking about?
One that's half torn down.
One that was getting torn down.
It had a cease
What?
and desist and it's
On
on.
153.
53.
Yeah. I don't know if the permit has come in yet.
I know that's what Rebecca was waiting on,
Right.
was some kind of permit.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had heard from it because I had it and I reached out to Ed
Demo
right back.
permit, they took it down without the demo permit.
Yeah, it might be an asbestos, we don't know, hasn't been checked yet, so. From what I understand. And that's all, Chuck.
Okay,
Excuse me, on the road mowing,
Yeah.
do we have a quote for that work and an insurance certificate?
No, because we're not sure what we're gonna exactly have to do yet. And where, I know the money that we have. So. That's what we're kind of going on, what we can afford. But after Thursday,
So any
yes,
vendors, we need a W-9 insurance certificate for our records.
all right, I'll tell them that.
All right, thank you.
You probably charge by the hour.
yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, like you said, it costs us more having to move around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put it
Well,
on the
we
road.
just budgeted every year to a third of the town or half of the town. and
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That'll keep us ahead of the game. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Under announcements this morning, we learned in the last day or so that the Teresa Swanik, who's one of our volunteer people on different committees, tested positive for COVID. Teresa has had her vaccination. She was on her, she wanted to take a trip to Canada, so she had to get the test. She took the test and came in positive. So just letting everybody know that if you happen to be in a meeting with her and you decide you want to get tested, it might be worth it. Snow Road Bridge is completed and open to the public. The selectmen and HEB engineering did a walkthrough Friday at noon on the bridge to confirm the completion. And it looked good at that point. People ran over it all weekend, so it obviously was doing the job. And Mike Cahalan actually stopped at the folks at 10 Snow Road. And basically kind of thanked them for the inconvenience and allowing the parking of vehicles on the edge of their property. The Bailey Road Bridge culvert repair starts this week. Target is Thursday, weather dependent. I reached out to Clean Harbors. I'm going to try again today or tomorrow to get information on the used oil, an update on the removal price per gallon, et cetera, to help our budgets. I met with Bartlett Tree Service at the transfer station regarding the invasive knotweed that is likely in the wetland area. Bartlett is going to make a call to DES, no charge to us, to determine the permit process. Once they have a copy of a wetland elevation plan, do we know if we've got one somewhere or for the landfill?
I'm not aware.
Okay, would you just kind of,
Was it on the, HEB may have it when we did the well testing?
We may have one too, I can check.
if you would?
I can check.
Yeah, I wrote Emily a note last night just saying, hey, do you guys happen to have access to one? Because I went on the website, and I didn't see anything to get what we needed.
Okay, no,
It
I'll
shows the
check.
wetland area, it doesn't show the elevation. They actually need the elevation
Right,
part.
okay, so the elevation part, I'll check with Emily.
The initial look is the type of vegetation that's growing right on the edge of the cap is a wetland vegetation. So they're trying to do the confirmation. Once they understand what DES will require, we can submit a permit to do the work. And apparently there is weed killer of some kind that they can actually use in wetland areas. It's not harmful to some of the, or most of the animals, from what I understand, of fish. More to come as we get more information. I worked with Mike Cahalan this week regarding the Bailey Road Bridge DES permit process proposal. The quote we had was 16.5 plus. And the original quote we had from the presentation we had a couple months ago, a month and a half ago, was 10. So there was a big discussion around, so why the big increase? And we're still getting information on that. The library mirror, is that the box that's right behind me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right there, okay. I need to put that in my truck today to get it up to the library. The painter that's up there right now, and Jim's on call painting, has offered to do that installation for free using the lift that he has on site. So we'll take care of that. Under new business, we have a proposal from Yankee Thermal Imaging to approve payment for deposit on the insulation project at the Historic Town Hall Library. That proposal came in at $16,700. We're hoping that we can get a 50% grant with Eversource. It's been submitted, so we may have an offset to that. There's a deposit due of $8,350. I'm gonna make a motion, we approve the proposal for 16.7 for the insulation project at the Town Hall Library to be paid out of fundraising funds that have been collected in the last few years. Right here, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Full around.
Aye.
Concord and Sons, we have the payment and the final notices. Those are being paid today. Lost Valley Care and Remodeling also is getting paid their final payment. We definitely thank both of those companies for their work on the town hall library building and the preservation work effort. The work looks really well. The Hanson Bridge culvert repairs deposit was signed today. And as I said, that work is targeted to start on Thursday. And before the meeting today, in our mail folder, we were giving a note from a couple of landowners that cannot find their boundary lines on the edge of the road. And they'd like the town help to identify that. Discussion.
I don't see why.
We don't have any surveyors on staff.
Right.
And I don't think stone walls were removed if the things were in the stone walls. If they were out on the roadside of the stone wall, I mean, it's not where they should be.
Right. So at this point, the only thing I can think of is we just let the landowner know that if they need identification, a specific location, they need to hire their own surveyor.
Yeah, we can help them what we can, but,
Yeah.
you know, tax maps and stuff and deeds, we say whatever. But,
Well, they apparently have the deeds based on
Yeah,
what was part of
but
that.
I mean, I don't think, you know, we should be spending any money on it.
I would
I
agree.
I agree.
Okay, good. Audrey, could you let the person, the three people that basically sent that in, let them know that they'll have to come up with their own surveyor to determine the lot lines. The other thing we had in our work today was an attorney general office cemetery settlement agreement regarding the cemetery here on School Street. In reading it over last night, I got some concerns about some of the things that were not spelled out in there. So I'm thinking we should send it to our legal counsel. And Audrey, I will send you a note with the concerns we have on that. Because it doesn't mention anything about future town liability. The way it's worded right now, they'll access all of the trust funds, and when they run out, they run out. But it does not address who's going to be maintaining it after everything runs out. So that's all I had on my list. Anything else? What?
No.
Okay. Also on the new business, I reached out to Ossipee and traded an email with Matt Sawyer regarding the Ossipee Parks and Recreation proposed increases for the town of Effingham to fund our portion of that for next year. If you gentlemen don't have an issue, I'm gonna go over and meet with Matt personally to see if we can come up with some kind of a graded scale rather than a 300% jump in our price tag.
Absolutely.
Okay. I will try and do that this week. Joe Duchesne was supposed to be here this morning for department update. But they're actually working on an on-site inspection today in town where they were required to have a presence. So we'll get that next week. And that gets us up to public comment. Do we have anybody that wants a public comment? Yes,
Claire?
Claire,
Wells?
I didn't hear. I apologize.
Blair,
Blair.
with a B, Foltz, Folts. So I'm a little distracted by the COVID thing, because I did sit in a meeting with Teresa, so I always wear my mask, and today I didn't wear my mask, so I'm a little distracted. Anyway, I'm here about the CBA vote
Mhm.
that happened last week that Teresa was during, and I'm appealing to you, wonderful selectmen, as the overseers of town law, to look into this a little bit further. And I put together a short-ish letter that bullets my concerns. A gas station is not allowed in our drinking water protection area, and that's the area on the map that's in the aquifer. And that ordinance was put together in 2008, was updated in 2015. It's not outdated ordinance. It was voted in by the people. It wasn't targeting any specific business. It was to protect our drinking water. And Lenny knows how concerned I am about drinking water, especially since I'm drinking town PFOAs. But if we lose this law in our town, in my view, illegally or not correctly, it sets a bad precedent across the entire watershed, but it also doesn't protect our own water in our town. And so I'm asking, and there's a way, there are some processes for you to follow that are procedural, that are allowed by Superior Court. RSA 676:5 allows you as a selectman, because you have the most standing in the town, to appeal to the ZBA first and ask them to retry it. If you go through their minutes, starting on March 29th, you will see that they never even mentioned that we had a groundwater protection ordinance. And when I read those minutes, I was appalled that they didn't even say, wait, we have a groundwater protection ordinance. Are they just not knowledgeable of all our laws? In which case, can you as selectmen ask them to study a little bit more, take a class, come up to speed on this? I mean, that's a major ordinance. So I put together like a description of other issues regarding that and asking you, pleading with you to go through that process.
We will look into it, Blair. If you can give Audrey a copy of what you have so she can make copies for us.
Copies for all of you.
Perfect, thank you.
And I'm sorry, it's 4 pages, but it could have been
That's
40.
okay. That's all right.
Be glad it's only 4.
Audrey, can you take this little PDF for me?
And I want to address one thing she said about Diane Jarecki, Letter Road, member of ECC. Tim White is a member of both the ZBA and the ECC, and we've been discussing this at our meetings as well, with him informing us of what's been going on with this. And one of the things he has mentioned to us is that ordinance as one of the things that they have been looking at, consider. So they are well aware of the ordinance.
And it was part of their deliberations.
Is it okay if I add to that a little bit? Because I wanted to compliment Tim because he was the only one at the hearing that voted no, based on there was no hardship. So he is the only one that brought that up. But at the March 29th meeting, when the applicant first was there, no one said, let's go with this groundwater protection. And that was a long time ago. So that's.
But it has been brought into it since then, so.
Right, it was in the deliberative session that they had. It was
Yes.
brought up and discussed. So, good. Anything else?
I also had concern that Teresa was wearing both hats. As chair of the planning board and chair of the ZBA, I watched Ms. Wannicky. It was almost like she was confused as to what meeting she was at. She was running parts of that hearing as if it were site plan review, like looking at the tank design. That's not what the ZBA is supposed to be doing. So just.
The beauty of it, there's minutes from all those meetings. So if anybody's got a question about who
Oh,
said
yes, I
what,
know.
where, why, and how, it's all there. So,
And I'm not threatening you, but just
No, no,
know that
no.
a lot of people in town are concerned and willing to put dollars behind legal backing to confront the town. Do I want to do that? Absolutely not. This is my town, I pay taxes here. So I'm asking you to look into this and look into the procedure to ask them to retry it.
okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public?
Okay, I'm
Name, please.
Rich Day, FAHY from OSFI. And is it okay if I speak from Austin? Because I'm in Effingham.
It's a public session. I'm okay
Okay,
with
all
that.
right. My uncle, Uncle Hal Fay used to live down the road here, and he actually, back in the 40s, and he got his house foreclosed on in Effingham back in the 1990s. So that, but his coming up here is the reason that I came up here in Ospey in the 60s, and I've been swimming in Ospey Lake for my entire life. My license has always had, my driver's license has always had the same address. So full-time resident from Ospey. Also a Navy officer for 30 years. And the reason that's relevant is as a ship driver, an engineer, and worked a lot with freshwater tanks and gas tanks, because it's really, and I'm talking about the boils market again. But I'm really familiar with contamination of water from a shipboard level, but it makes me super sensitive to any kind of contamination and water quality. Back in 2017, there's a gas station across from Hobbs.
Can I stop you? All your arguments you should have been making at the ZBA meeting, not here.
Well, this is,
Everything you're bringing up is stuff that others brought up in similar fashion during the meetings. I can listen to what you're saying, but it's not gonna basically be taken into account. We're gonna take a look at what has happened from a legal standpoint and determine if there's anything we need to do as far as looking into it. But we're not gonna rehash the facts that have already been put before the ZBA, because we're not the land use board that they are.
okay, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to, as an Ospey resident, we bought, Ospey is right there.
Yep.
It's, so we never got, we weren't involved in any of this. It wasn't our ZBA, it was the Effingham ZBA.
And there were plenty of people from the area that were out of the area that actually attended the sessions and provided input to the entire discussion. So there was discussion not only from Effingham, but outside of Effingham as part of that, because I actually sit on 2 or 3 of the sessions to listen to what was going on.
So I just,
In a summary fashion, because there's nothing I'm gonna be able to do with what you're saying.
okay, well,
Very narrow.
no, so just to get back to my train of thought, back in 2015, there was an Ospey gas station proposal put before the Ospey ZBA. And the Ospey ZBA approved it. It was appealed. And the appeal wasn't considered because it was outside of the 30-day window. It was about 35 days. And it was also that the person that had brought up the appeal wasn't considered a stake, didn't have a stake in the proposed gas station. When you read the actual appeal that was submitted for the ZBA back in 2015, that was not considered. It was written by Mark McConkey. He was the one that was appealing the actual gas station across from Hobbs. And he brings up some really good points, and I'll give you a copy of that request. And then a lawyer came back and said the reason why this is not going to be reconsidered by the ZBA. A year and a half later, in 2017, the planning board then considered the proposed Ospey gas station. And I sat in on all of those meetings from January to May of 2017. And one of the things that Connie Billings and Roy Barron and Tim Otterbach, they were all really frustrated that the ZBA had authorized this, and they never should have, and they were frustrated that the appeal was never heard. But their constant lament was, look, pal, it's the ZBA did it. They decided the planning board's purview is completely different. And so we've got to go forward with our hands tied, and we're kind of in a corner where we're going to go. So that's one of the reasons why it took 5 months, and DES got involved. And to this day, there's no gas station there. Long story short, it was approved on with a vote of 5-2. I was really so involved in it that I would actually go away from the meetings and I would write minutes of all of the video sessions. I would go back on the video and sit there carefully. So I've been able to go through all of my minutes, and it was just startling to see how many violations there were on a constant basis. So I want to bring this up because it's really important that there's already been precedents and there's already been this frustration, and I don't want Effingham to go through it again. And I think as an Ospey resident, I'm really concerned because it's right there. And one of the biggest problems was the abutter status. And on and on and on, the Ospey Planning Board did not want to talk to Freedom, did not want to talk to Tamworth, even though they were like within 400 feet of each other because of past difficulties that the planning board had with that. So I'll leave it at that. I'll give you a copy of the actual appeal because I think that says volumes, especially because I mean, it just happens to be in Mark McConty's words, but he's the agent for this thing that's going on right now. And two other things. One, to the point about the gas tanks at Boyles being discussed, and that was part of the conversation. If you go back and look at the March 29th minutes that the ZBA held, they had not held a ZBA, they had not held a meeting since November. So they went in March, cold call, did a ZBA, and without any public comment, it was closed to public comment. There was about 5 seconds for public comment. I don't know if there was an announcement previously, but without public comment. And if you look at the minutes in particular, and I'll leave you a copy with the minutes, although I know you can get them online the way I did it. They authorized the underground storage tanks illegally. And so given that the realtor authorized it, the owner authorized it, the agent authorized it, and the contractor authorized it. And the ZBA did it without any public comment. So now the tanks are in the ground. That really affects the decision-making going forward when the same board that illegally authorized it now has to basically do whatever they can not to have egg on their face, because there's going to be a cost to extricating these tanks. So now they have skin in the game that they didn't have back in March 29th. My last point I'd like to make is this aquifer is much like a reservoir. And so if you have a reservoir, it's used as a freshwater supply for municipal tanks to deliver, municipal pipes to deliver water to the citizens of a community, of a suburb. And that water is tested on a normal basis. The important part of having an aquifer that has clean water is there is no testing. Nobody tests your well. So you have to test your own well. So your confidence in your mental health and your physical health is going to be dictated by that. I want to read you a couple of quick notes from an old email from Harry Merrow from March of 2000, 21 years ago. And he makes some really good points. He's talking about the installation of Huron oil tanks in Ossipee. And he said, our situation occurred last year, back in 1999. Ossipee has a zoning regulation preventing this. Were I not a selectman, it probably would have slipped through. I picked it up, and after a very little discussion, the selectmen unanimously filed a reconsideration appeal to the board. We also instructed the attorney to take the town ZBA to court if they failed to recall their permission. The tank would have been completely underwater under spring floods, but the final outcome was the tank allowed. We also went to the top of each state agency and questioned them, which resulted in some backtracking. However, I have to tell you, I don't have much faith in them. There seems to be no consistency or reason for much of what they do. And finally, he says, my concern for the future is that many towns lie over the various aquifers. Regulations vary or are non-existent. What is needed is a comprehensive inter-town or even interstate set of regulations that apply to everyone. Without this, I am afraid that eventually the aquifers will be unusable for drinking water. And my concern is Effingham went through the process, got a groundwater protection ordinance, and then if there was some sort of accommodation that had to be made, and you had a red line where it wasn't that much of a risk, and a green line where there's no, or red line where there's high risk, a green line where there's low risk, putting a tank right at the Phillips Brook tributary to Levitt Bay, and that only has two tributaries. It's got the Levitt Brook and it's got the Phillips Brook. And the Phillips Brook is the most compromised brook in the entire aquifer. And I know that because 15 years of study were just published last month by Green Mountain Conservation Group. And they identified that brook as the most compromised. So 248 feet from that on a 10-degree slope on an impermeable surface with no buffer going straight into Ossipee Lake, right straight through residences in Levitt Bay, we're really, really compromising the freshwater and frankly, the economic viability of everybody in the surrounding area. So I'd like you to just reconsider looking at what the ZBA did, and hopefully there will be an appeal. Unfortunately, as an Ossipee person, I don't have any ability. I don't have a stake that I know of. And I don't,
Your comments would have been good during the open part of those public meetings, the VBA.
I didn't become aware of it. I was in Ossipee,
They're
so I
not
didn't
gonna have
know.
the same weight here as they would have there.
And I just like to, because I had a bunch of these. I just wanted to give these guys to you. The VOCs in order to test. These are water testing kits, and I have a ton of these, and you don't have to use them, but they've got the cost of how much it costs to test your water in a well, and they're good just to give out in general. But testing for the entire test is about $230, but VOCs in particular are $120. So testing for gas is really I have to do it in my well, and it just comes laborious because we all have private wells. But thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Nope, appreciate the input. So with the comments I've heard and with the information you provided, we are going to follow up with town legal counsel. And from there, we'll let you know at another meeting how we're going to go.
Could I ask, because I was really struck by that hard line of 30 days for the ZBA appeal to put that in. So I'm just in that the determination was made on August 4th, so the time is ticking. When would you actually be?
Do not know the answer to the question, but the earliest would be next week.
Okay,
And looking
great.
at something.
And something, so
That's-
it's not like out of
That's
September or
providing we
something.
get what we want from feedback with legal counsel.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
I did print this out for you too. It's the process that's come off the legal website, .gov thing. You can find it. It's
Okay, yes.
Just real quick, I'm
Name,
Corey,
name please for the record.
yes, Corey Lane, and I'm here for Ossipee Lake Alliance, asking for the same reconsideration on 676.5. Does the select board really take a deep look into this, because there was, and I did go to meetings and I did participate, but there was some misinformation. And one of the concerning things, there were many, is that the chairwoman of the board stated there hasn't been a spill there in 30 years, and that's not accurate. There's actually contamination there on site, and there were many things not considered, including the ordinance that prevents this kind of risk from going in. They need to monitor now, it appears, and the chances of more contamination down the road are very great, which is why the people of Effingham voted to prevent this kind of business from going in there. And as the town attorney said, it had to be considered separate from the convenience store, and one has nothing to do with the other, and there's no hardship. So ask you to look deep into it, as I'm sure you will, and just wanted to
We
show
will be diving into
our
it.
support for doing that. So I appreciate that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Do we need a non-public for any reason, Grant? Good.
Anybody online?
No,
Thank you for. Nobody online?
no, we just had someone join. Does anyone online have questions?
Okay, good. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. The normal meeting is going to be over, and we're going to dive into a work session to start talking about the 2021-22 budget. Thank you very much for today. Take 5.
Can I give you, I only have one copy of each of these. Can I just give that to them, or?
Yeah. There we go.
That's the ZBA. appeal. They all
Thank you,
get
guys.
voted
Bye.
against.
Thank you.
And then this is just simply a copy of the minutes that for the USC is one, they approved it in a split second.
All right.
Thank you, appreciate it, guys.
Okay, so.
Excuse me, is your first name again?
Rich.
Rich. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I know.
Catch anything yesterday? Catch anything yesterday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, actually, I did pretty good. My buddy didn't do as good.
No?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I got maybe 10, 6 bass.
Yeah.
You know,
Where'd
we
you
were
go?
out there for 8 hours,
Where'd you go?
all over.
Yeah.
They're all deep.
Yeah.
We weren't in, even if the water level was so high. I mean, it was flooding over the areas that were normally weeds way up.
Oh, I got
People that really,
They were staying right out. They were staying, I think maybe the boat traffic and everything going on drove everything deep. They were down
Have a good
about
day.
8 feet. 8 to 14 feet of water. So they were staying at.
Yeah,
Job.
Hi, John.
I did.
your training is paying off.
How
You got any size to them?
Yeah, actually, a couple of the largemouth are nice.
Yeah.
I got one smallmouth, which is a little one. But the largemouth, the nice ones, they were fat. Yeah, they were eating good.
Yeah.
I assume they must be nocturnal right now, just because of all the traffic. Because even when we're out there, jet skis and sailboats and pontoon boats and speedboats, and, I mean, waves. You know, normally we'd be in a little closer to shore, wouldn't be as bad. But we had to pull off from shore in order to even have a chance to catch anything. Most of it was on plastics.
Where'd you go fishing?
Province. I've been fishing that for 35 years. Sometimes 2 days a week, and me and my buddy would come from down the seacoast, we'd come up here and fish it.
You're getting a 3-eye fishes out of there, don't you?
Huh? We don't keep anything, but it's always been a great lake, but boy, has it changed over the years. Big time difference. Just in the last 10 years, it's gone down so bad.
When I was a kid, we ice fish there all the time, pump out there all the time, but we caught some big pepper out there.
Yeah, I used to catch one pot out of there and no more.
Place was nothing to catch a 30, 35 inch pepper.
Oh, yeah.
You would be.
Yeah. And the small ones, 17, 18, all day long.
I don't know, this,
Now it's changed to a largemouth lake and mostly pickerel. Mostly pickerel. Yeah, it's amazing how that lake has changed over 10 years. I'd say that's probably the time frame it's gone down. Unfortunately, I love that lake.
Where folks called me last week. And when we stopped by, I called her, left her voicemail, she called back, left me a voicemail. And she said she called back, because I was planning to Thursday night, she called back, said she'd call me Friday and never heard from us. That must have been what it was about.
Find that hard to believe.
Hey,
I was gonna ask. how that
great
worked.
arguments, none of them were, those people should have shown up and made it. So it's like,
yeah.
but we will. So
I remember
what
hearing
I
things
just
they
did
said
with all the
didn't.
paperwork that was just there, I asked Darlene to scan it to the individual files. Send me a note, copy to both of you, and I will form up a question or two to ask Matt. And basically say, we're gonna do another 100%. Should we proceed? All questions.
Is Matt the one that's been working on it with Teresa?
Yes, actually it has. So that's the good thing is it's
Yeah.
same legal counsel.
Yeah.
Um,
He probably won't be surprised.
And I actually set in on portions of either 2 or 3 of these sections. I know you said it on a good number of them.
Yeah, I just missed the one, I think, the one of deliberations.
So I do
That's
have a
like, there was some
flavor of a lot of
misfacts,
stuff that came out.
there was some misfacts stated right here today.
Yeah, don't worry.
That on, Darlene?
That-
That on?
Is that, I don't think so.
She usually shuts it
What
off.
was Leah's last name?
Foltz, FOLTS.
FOLT.
That's the Z.
Huh?
Yes, I thought it was a
F
Z.
is in Frank,
Oh, I thought it ended with a Z.
no,
Yes. You spelled it wrong.
I won't be first, huh?
Yeah, well, won't be the
I'm
first,
gonna
won't be the
have
last.
people slow down and I didn't catch anybody's name, even though I asked. Talking too fast.
Oh, the girl with the mask was,
Like, that's the only one I got. Corey. That's the only one.
well, next time we'll have him put a mask on.
Yes, I know, right? All right, so this.
No,
Can we get Audrey to turn that back on?
Yeah, I think she went in and got her
Really?
paperwork.
she's been back.
Yes, that's why I brought out what I did. Okay.
Oh,
I
you
think
did-
Dave wasn't here when-
And she was vaccinated.
oh, I didn't hear what you did beforehand. That wasn't here.
Yeah, no, I just want to put out her name and the fact that she tested as a result of wanting to go to Canada for vacation. She tested positive, but she had already been vaccinated. So it just lets anybody know there might have been meetings with her in the last week
Oh,
or
because
two.
it just had a meeting, right? Planning board.
Yeah, it's that way. It's like this.
Oh, that's beauty.
I
Who's on the other side?
gotta make sure people are aware of it. Hey,
It's not going.
I don't know if it
anywhere.
was-
We're gonna have to live with COVID.
Paul Potter or Gary Jewell. I think it was Gary Jewell.
FYI,
That's still on?
and you're still on the,
Oh, I thought you shut off.
what?
It's still being.
you're listening to everything and you're on video.
Sorry. I
You
couldn't
didn't
think
shut
of it.
anything on?
I forgot.
Be a new administrator in there Monday morning.
Maybe.
Easy.
And David reach out to Avatar to determine an add-on module to be able to track the building permits, septic tank installation information approved by the state, and then state sign off and approval prior to occupancy. That module is about $7,500, and in his opinion, does way, way, way more than we would ever need. And he's actually working on a method in-house now to be able to add that information into Avatar for us to be able to track. What is important here is, in the past process, we saw the approval of septic tanks from the state as far as the approval for the design. Nobody's ever followed up regarding the installation for the most part. And in a number of cases, we've discovered people have moved into houses without septic systems.
Yep.
We also know we have a number of RVs that have been on properties for multiple years, being lived in for a good number of months of the year. And we need to determine what their wastewater program is relative to septic systems or whatever. A lot of them don't have porta potties when you drive by them, so it's one of those things we know there's an issue. And building permits are now being numbered, so that there'll be a capability to follow up within a time period. The actual permit themselves, as you notice, have been reworded a little bit as a result of these ongoing discussions. So we just need to take a look at that, because the septic tank reviews are going to increase with the health officer as we go forward in this area. And what triggered this was the problem we had with that dump of human waste earlier in the year. That's what kind of precipitated all the bigger discussions around how do we help manage this so we don't get additional dumping of human waste. So,
Are you talking additional reviews as far as stuff already installed, additional reviews for upcoming?
all above.
Because it's already been, for upcoming, it's already part of the requirement to get a permit, is the state has to have, the state has to have the inspection.
It's always been there. There's been no monitoring of the state inspections.
On
So-
a newly installed, I'm talking about,
Anything that's,
she won't issue a permit unless you have it.
but the only thing is we only have the design. We don't ever look to see if the thing was ever put in.
Most towns
We
have
don't-
occupancy permits. and
No, there is not, but she wouldn't give me mine once I had mine approved.
You need it approved,
I had to give it to her.
but the
With the
follow-up by the state is not being done or has not been done in the past from this town.
So
So
you're
there's-
so we're
there's at
expecting
least-
hers to increase by, because of the newly installed to get the approved permit?
We're going to have some type of a process to the follow-up, which probably will
Not
be
to get the permit,
Site.
Dave.
No, to get the approved.
No,
Approved
not to get,
install.
no, to
Nope.
have it inspected afterwards, after installation.
Well, she don't
We'll-
inspect it, the
Correct.
state inspects it.
We will,
State inspection,
right, but there shouldn't be any, what we're gonna have to monitor is no occupancy until state inspection is in our
It's
records.
complete.
Right.
Do we
So,
not
but-
get the records sent to us after the inspection?
No,
State.
So what I guess what I'm getting at is that could affect the CEO by you imposing also on new stuff, additional stuff, right?
Yep.
That's all I'm getting at is because we hadn't done that before, so that's where I'm going with
And
it.
I know there's some planning board discussions in this very nature about the follow-up. So it's not coming just from what we discovered, it's also coming at it from
Yeah, so when we hit the CEO thing, I have a better idea of what you're
much more
understanding
detail.
where you're lying with it is you're expecting additional duties because it never was for
Right.
newly built properties because everything was handled by the state. And she always required, she could give you the permit beforehand, but she always required the approval copied and sent back because I had to, because she required that of me.
It has not been consistent in a lot of cases.
I
So-
mean, it's
so what
probably
we're gonna do-
reviewed,
so
her
what we're gonna
duties
do-
ought to be reviewed. Because I
This
know
is
it's
one of
in-
the reasons we're gonna install I'm gonna call it a tracking mechanism. And we're gonna use the Avatar software to do it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it'll be an automated process, so as people come and go over time, the process will still be there. We believe we can get a data dump from the state. Mike is actually looking at that right now of every approved septic system for the town of Effingham.
Mhm.
And if he can get it in the right file format, David can actually load that into the Avatar software. So we get a historical record of when things were done on the property and when approvals were made. It will also probably give us, if we could get that file, anybody that actually had it inspected by the state to meet the state law requirement.
So that might increase the workload too of things that are deficiencies
Correct.
found during that.
Correct.
All right, so that could be something else.
So it's one of those things we need to come up with a mechanism and make it more automated. So
Yeah, that's all.
I was trying to do it through a module of software, but it's not cost effective for that module of software based on what we're trying to do.
Yeah, just so I have some idea when we get to that, what you're talking about.
Yep. And David's he's already working on a model to be able to do that input and documentation for it. So.
And just to comment on one of your comments that people using the septic before it's state approved. I believe the state does allow people to use it into the tank, but it can't go out into the leach field. I think that happened at the fire station.
It wouldn't let
But the
me
one-
use mine.
No,
No, no, the lady came out and,
I mean, you used to be able to use it before the state inspected it. But you couldn't backfill
he
anything.
couldn't even hook it from the house, the final connection until she
So it's been
approved
inspected.
everything.
Yeah.
On mine, she had to come out, then she signed it, she put it in the D box. And then
That's-
he could put the final
That's
connection
what I
into the
understand.
tank. That's was my experience 8 years ago.
But I know
9 years ago.
planning board's looking at this very topic to basically try to improve our.
But I wouldn't say
positioning
the
and
state's
documentation.
consistent anyway. but-
Yeah, because I mean, Ron hooked up the one at the fire station, without it being inspected. So.
Yep, those days are probably not gonna be going forward like that.
Yeah, it's never by that.
Yeah. All right, anything else on that one?
So are you changing any numbers or?
Nope,
Yeah,
nope,
are you
well,
not
at
doing
this
any of
point,
that yet? No,
we
okay.
need to get a little bit more information. We can look at the budget to actuals and see that we're running pretty good, other than postage where we went way over. But we also realized that a lot of that overage on postage was due to the annual inventory mailing, which we are no longer going to
Right.
do.
Right.
So, if anything, there might be a movement on software up $100 to account for whatever annual increase might be, but
And your postage most likely would go down, Chuck,
correct.
based on that.
Probably 500 would be a good number.
Yeah, so,
So,
yeah,
So you're not working on numbers, you're just gonna talk about the overview.
Nope.
on each budget.
no,
Okay,
there's actually a few of them we're gonna do simple enough. We're probably gonna just talk about them and approve them.
okay.
All right, next one, 4153 legal. this line was high last year. We're gonna be over budget again this year. The 30,000 is probably not a legitimate number in the long term. It's higher than that. So one of the things we're gonna need to take a look at is what's actually been going on. Is there a chance that it's gonna repeat itself? And look at the increased level of reviews that are happening. So as a result of the junkyard ordinance last year, we took the top 11, we went out at them. 3 of those are going to be involved with legal action. Once that's made some homework there. Once they have done the homework there, we need to then go to the next level, another 10 or 11, and follow up on those. So there'll be additional action in the follow-up arena around junkyards that again will be part of zoning and likely will, in some cases, result in legal like we know right now.
Yeah, even with everything going on, I mean, which has been a lot this year. I mean, we're still $10,000 under.
You know, we
on
haven't seen the
legal.
bill over
But
the
we've
last
got
few
some
weeks.
bills to come in, but
Yeah. No,
so I'd say we're gonna be pretty close even with everything that's been going on. I don't see it, I mean, there may be a small percentage over, but I don't see it going as bad as we had the previous.
No,
years.
no. I'm not looking forward to go anywhere near as
Yeah,
bad as it was
just-
in 2000.
I don't see it anyways.
No.
So I think we're in the ballpark anyway, within a small percentage.
Right, and we know we've got a court case that's already scheduled for April of next year,
Mhm.
which will be, I believe, a jury trial of some kind or a judge's trial. And we know every one of those, when they go in, those are worth $3 or $4 grand from a legal standpoint when we do them. So I just want to have you think about an increase in the number, and I do agree with the budget chair that moving it up to where it was in 2020 is not something we need to take a look at, but I think we do need to increase that line item to be more realistic. And as the health officer, as I said, does more work around septic systems and whatever, we may have legal action there. Payroll at 4155, nothing here. The one thing, Audrey, would you just clarify what the going rate is? And if there's any expectation that in June of next year that the rate we pay will go up? I think it's 31% right now, right?
I just
It
went
just
on
went up in
before I
July.
came here, I got the percentages of the increases from last year. So our retirement's gonna be probably at least another 2,000 more,
That's kind of what I was figuring.
Yep.
Okay.
based on what the state just issued the projections for retirement.
Right,
So based on what we pay, which is 2, we're gonna be about $2,000 more is what I see in my calculations.
Yeah, and I'm
Just so you have some idea of that.
And looking at the run rate where we are right now,
Yep.
I would agree that that's a pretty solid number.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, that's just an estimation, but it seems like a pretty good number based on the state's forms today.
And in the FICA arena, our budget's 30, our run rate right now is about 30, over 30, 36. So once we understand what we might be looking at for wages with anything that we look at approving regarding an inflation increase, we should then come back and revisit this one to make sure that 30 is actually going to be covering.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be way conservative on that. I think we're gonna be real good even with 30. I'd be surprised we're not gonna be based on the way we're going.
I'm hoping you're right.
Yeah.
So,
No, just looking at all the numbers and
Yep.
everything we had, just so you have some feedback, what
Yep.
I'm seeing, that's all.
yeah, I know a lot of that,
That is gonna change because your part-time fire staff have FICA taken out and they didn't start until May, June.
Man, yep,
So that's gonna affect it and potentially be an increase in next year.
so. And I did talk with Randy, if he foresaw his budget making an increase in the wages for those part-time people for next year, and he told me no. So the existing rate of pay will be,
yeah, I know we're
In his
paying
opinion.
more for the part-timers than you do for the on-call.
yeah, and his budget originally was 15 across the board, but that's not how he's paying them out. So he's paying them out at 15 and less.
Mhm. Yeah, but that's expected, yeah, we'll get to that when we get to fire, that's another thing.
Anything else that needs to be factored into the other thing that happens with the FICA is anything that's OT from a police department standpoint. So
I think that
do
should.
you have a capability, Darlene, in QuickBooks to pull what Sean has had year to date for number of overtime hours?
Mhm.
All right, would you,
We're already tracking it separately in his
Okay.
budget.
would you just, can you look at previous years too, or just this year?
No, I think it was only separated this year.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is all in part-time.
So, yeah, we'll need to just factor that in there, and if, depending on what the part-time police budget looks like next year, we have to factor something in on that too. All right, municipal buildings, currently used at 21,288. We know right now we're gonna have 10,000 because of the powder post beetle and spraying and the asbestos removal work at the library. A second powder post beetle infestation has been found in the tower. And we've asked the historic architect and their structural engineers to look at and determine what we might be looking at for potential work. The pest control company is coming out this week to provide a quote for spraying the tower for powder post beetles.
But you're gonna need a replacement, all right? Isn't that what we discussed
For
because of that damage?
there's two things. There's the big damage underneath the library stacks. So the library stacks are then gonna have to come out and that whole floor ripped up. And new timbers and some new pilings put in, and then the floor reinstalled. This is actually in the tower with a couple of the structural beams.
Yeah.
So we have no clue what that's gonna look like.
And I know we discussed that there's gonna be some major work.
Yeah.
On fire's basement. And the potential to
And
needing additional funds for that.
And I would, and as I've told you, and I mentioned it to, I believe in this meeting, but maybe not. I think we'll do a warrant article, once we know the report from the architect and the structural engineer. And we get the approval from L-Chip for the work, we'll put it out to bid, so we'll have actual numbers and a contractor picked for the work. And then we'll put a warrant article together and find out if the town wants to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I'm wondering, just so you consider it while we're at this one. You know, we may look at, because of everything that's going on with the historic town hall right now.
Yeah.
I mean, typically, trust fund was to put money in so we could paint it. And then anything after that was gravy. Right now, everything that's being done is pretty much handling and stuff, so maybe we could use some of those trust funds to cover the beetles. So just a suggestion.
Yep, and I'm open
Just a
to that.
suggestion, because I'm thinking that there's no reason that we have to keep that up so high, because the painting is happening right now.
Yep.
You know, we're getting a lot more funds in because of the active participation in that program.
Preservation work.
So we have 40,000 roughly in the fund, you know, when I'm just looking at there. So then we're throwing the other 10, I don't know if that went into that. That's probably not in
I don't
there.
think it's in there.
So that'd be about 48, roughly 50. And then if we threw another 10 in this year, put it up at 60. You know, so just give you some idea, maybe that may be
Go that
something
route rather than. a
as
separate warrant
opposed to a warrant article, because you guys can authorize the funds right out of the maintenance. So that, and then we could look at the previous year, how much we want to put back in, like we have been previously with trust funds. How much do we want, if we use 40,000 out of 60, how much do we want to get that back up? Do we want to get it back up to 35? We want to get back up to 30, we'll put another 5 in there the next year. But it'll at least, I'm trying to hold the line on, because of the $3 increase in December. You know, if we can find other creative ways of funding stuff.
I'm okay with that.
And I'm thinking that that's definitely something in here we could do with the municipal buildings. So it's something I'm looking at to propose to the committee as opposed to supporting a warrant article to go.
Yeah,
get the
and
funds.
I want to just make sure that people understand what the broad
Yeah.
areas we're looking at. No decisions made on how or when or what until we actually have firm numbers in our hand and we then can look at.
Yeah, I mean, even if we can use some of it to offset it,
Yep.
I mean, just so you have some idea where I'm thinking and heading with that,
Okay.
especially you, Tom, being on the committee.
I don't think the application for the public post beetles would be tons of money anyway.
Oh, no, this is the replacement, you know, for the beams and
Yeah,
stuff underneath.
but I don't know if they're that bad.
In the tower, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, you've been up there, I obviously.
Well, Leo was up there. I mean, I was up there 4 months ago and saw no sign of it. And there's a pile of sawdust now that's over a foot tall.
So maybe just a
Under one of
spraying
these.
would.
Yeah. Spraying's got to happen anyway.
Yeah.
I can, based on my discussion with the structural engineer when he came up out of the crawl space the first time around, we're definitely going to need to do that. Then secondary to that is what needs to be done for the actual replacement of the beam that's pretty much rotted out. And it's a structural beam.
So, yeah, I mean, but my point, you got my point.
Yep, nope, good. Yep, open to that. Anything else?
On the heating fuel.
Yep.
You have a new one, furnace put in the library too?
Not this year.
Okay.
No.
Have we noticed any savings on this one here that we've had in now for an easy winter, but it was still a winter?
Don't think anybody's done an analysis against the LP gas usage versus the cost of pellets. Like,
Oh, you're talking in this building, Tom?
there has to be some savings,
Yeah, I don't think it
but
might.
at this point, quantifying it, I'm not sure.
I just, it's more curiosity than anything.
No. Yeah, and the preservation for project in the library was designed this year to do the heat system. The approval has to come from LCHIP, but because things have been slowed down.
Yeah.
We're not expecting them to give us an approval till sometime in the fall,
Well, I thought I had seen
which means it'll be next year's work. So,
but I'll be saving next year. Year after.
it'll be ongoing for a while. Phase 2 is in process as far as fundraising, folks. All right, anything else on this line?
No.
Okay, okay. 4195 cemetery.
we just got a question, salaries, what do we use the salaries for? Maybe,
Randy doing all the work around.
oh, okay. All right.
We have a maintenance person here who
Yeah.
comes in, and we also take the snow shoveling out of that line item.
That was just a question.
Yeah. Just educating.
Didn't know if it was one person or several, so.
I didn't realize it was several. So
We have a
that was good for
custodian
me
in the
too.
library
Yeah.
too.
Okay. All right, cemeteries. I mean, since I can remember, it's been basically a $2,000 item, and I don't mind leaving it there. Unless you think it needs to be more or less. You really run the cemetery.
Yeah, the question I had was over budget last year, why? They do.
They put labor, to put the flags on, they charge the town labor. The people who put it in, so we had to increase it in case they ended up charging labor again.
They did.
They charged labor this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't
So-
last
so
year,
the-
but the year before they did.
So the $700 that we designate for patriotic purposes is just for the flags?
Has been in the past, as far as I know.
Well, I thought that included everything.
Maybe that's where the labor went.
No, that was the flags. You're right.
I didn't
I'm
spend
sorry,
that,
not,
I didn't spend that much in flags, so, but.
Yeah, the labor probably was patriotic purposes, not some.
yeah, you're right. That was patriotic purpose. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't get that
And I
mixed up.
think the mowing comes out of that line, the cemetery. line
Yeah.
item.
Mhm.
Oh, I think we went over on this because we had the seating.
Oh, that's right, we did have this.
I can't remember who the heck asked for that.
I forgot all about it. So it's over, yeah. Okay. All right.
But I mean, I'm thinking 2000 next year. Do you have any corners
No,
one way or the other?
No,
All right.
and while we're on the cemetery thing, we have a trust fund for the Woodland Cemetery. Why?
I do not know the answer to that question. For some
I
reason.
mean, I can't see us ever expanding it.
No, that isn't people putting it into themselves, right? Is that the town is not putting money into it?
They have,
We,
well, it's an expendable trust fund.
yeah, we haven't put money into it in years.
No, but
So,
Why don't we get rid of it?
why don't we use the money?
What do we get in it?
Get rid of it.
An ETF? With
Yeah.
the cemetery? We get 10-3.
Yeah.
So I
For
mean,
what?
we just, for anything we need to maintain, I mean, as far as
Yeah, if you want
Probably-
to brush hog the
Brush.
boundaries, take down trees.
probably the road that we just paid to put money in,
yeah, the cemetery road, yeah.
the cemetery road is just for the cemetery. I mean, I know we did
Well,
the gate, yeah,
Gate.
yeah, then they do the entrance, that
No,
sign there,
Oh, I just did sign.
yeah. And then I
Bought
know
four
there
by
was brush
four, that
cutting,
was it.
brush cutting around its edges,
Well, we put that in the road budget,
yeah.
in the
maybe-
road.
Maybe we should have been putting that in the cemetery as opposed to the road budget, because it's not really road.
Well, Darlene had it in the cemetery budget, but it really isn't in the cemetery.
Yeah.
It's the
Around
road
the
going to the
exterior of the
cemetery.
cemetery?
No,
No,
no.
the cemetery is actually just a rectangle plot.
And
Yeah, but I mean, we were cutting around the cemetery.
he mows it once a year. Bush hogs it once a year. It comes out of the mowing.
Out of that 2,000.
Yeah.
Yep. But I thought we ended up cutting a bunch back. Because it was overgrown that you were talking about there last year.
Oh, last year maybe.
Yeah. last year.
Jory had brought it up that it had come in way from the stone walls, but when I went up and walked the entire perimeter, there weren't a stone wall within 30 to 50 feet of
The woods
where I
edge.
could look on three sides.
Yeah, the only stolen wall is the one in the front.
So I thought,
Yeah.
We haven't put anything in since I've been here into the cemetery trust fund, so it's been that way for a long time. You know, I know we reviewed trust funds one time with the select board about what we could get rid of, what we could keep, and that obviously we got rid of the building, municipal building fund, because we knew we'd have to go with a bond in order to even come close to funding that. And I know this was discussed, but I can't
is there any,
recollect.
I mean,
why
the
it
only
was-
thing I could see we'd use it for is maybe put a fence around, you know, both sections of it or something, but. I mean, the granite post that we put in, that came right out of the $2,000.
But we use the road funds for upgrading off of Hobbs, right? Because cemetery,
we actually.
because the
put that-
road into the cemetery is not actually a town road, it's more like a driveway, right?
I don't know.
It's not on the map,
It's not listed as a road on the map.
no, not listed as a town road. It's more like a driveway.
Dirt and grade, but
Yeah, I mean, of course we are, but maybe that's what some of the funds were initially appropriated for, money.
Yeah, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was been established quite a while.
Maybe you can
When
add,
did it get established?
oh geez. that was, Doesn't have the date here,
Oh, it doesn't. I thought they took the date.
not on this runoff, they don't have the date.
Maybe in the town report. You know, that one?
Could be. Yeah, this one just gives me the totals as a date. This was February of this year, the date of the totals that I have.
It was established in 2003.
Do we, other than potential fencing in the area, is there any bigger ticket item you see, new gate or?
There's no gate on it.
things like that? Well, I didn't know if there were
And
plans for doing.
I don't know if it'd be wise to put a gate on it,
People wouldn't really like the
you know.
fact they couldn't drive in.
I know people just dying to get in there, but.
That's not gonna keep them out, right?
Uh,
maybe that's something you can ask some older residents who might know when they put it in and what it was intended for.
Yeah,
It's not
they
really-
intended-
In the town report.
Yeah.
They ended
Still
up,
look back
they
and find out
intended
what it is.
to put a gate here. I mean, get the cement pillars. The hinges in there, but
Maybe that's something you could look at a warrant for dissolving and just handle it
Yeah,
with
I'm
the
gonna-
municipal building trust funds
Yeah.
and stuff.
Actually, we'll make a note on that. We'll bring that back up for discussion about getting rid of that one.
But the $2,000 is probably sufficient, isn't it, Lenny?
yeah, I would say.
But Chuck, are you considering these done when you're doing that?
No, this one I
Or
will.
are you gonna go back?
This,
Let me know which one you.
this is
consider
the
done.
only one
Okay,
that we're in agreement on, 2,000.
all right.
This one I will sign a clean
Yeah,
sheet
you
on.
can vote on it.
4195, make a motion for the budget for cemeteries for 2021 to 22 at a level of $2,000. Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor, for the right?
all right,
All right,
Thank you.
And you can do an initial on the bottom of this.
Yeah, I made
Darlene,
notes all
your
over this
copy.
one, but there's a clean copy in here, so before I leave, I'll make sure those.
Okay, Darlene,
What was that?
then I get it, if they agree that he initials it and I get a copy in my box,
And you're gonna make all the changes on the budget sheets for them?
I'll put them on the budget sheet, yeah.
You will.
And then what I do is I'll scan in what they approve and I put drafts on the website.
Okay.
So prior to the budget, your meeting and the budget meetings, they're out there for people to have when they come to the meeting.
Quick thing. All right, next sheet, 4196 insurance. Health insurance right now, according to the 7.2 budget to actual, we're at 74% for the year, so I suspect this line item is gonna go over. Audrey, could you check and see if we can determine what the potential increase is gonna be for medical insurance?
We've been averaging about a 9% increase.
90% is what they've been doing.
So we get about a 68-40 increase is what I see on this.
Okay,
I like you guys and your magic numbers.
Just going based on projections of what we've been seeing for increases. So it's
Over the
just an
last few
estimate,
years.
but it's pretty close.
So when we get a little further in, we get a little bit tighter number of what we're actually using for the year, then we'll
Yeah.
project it out.
But we can expect somewhere in that ballpark.
And the workers' comp liability, we never know that one until like January, right? December, January, isn't that the one we always end up with a late number on?
Well, actually, that was lumped with both. Average 9. is what
Okay.
we saw.
All
I
right,
lumped both and it was an average overall from the 76.
all right.
May see one a little less, one a little more.
Yeah, we're currently at 27,733. Out of 34, so that one's gonna be close to them. Probably. Okay,
Did you sign, is this the Primex one?
Yes.
liability workers' comp.
Did you sign the agreement where it doesn't go up for 3 years?
I don't know. Is it
Well, we
enough?
had an agreement.
Can we check the file? See if there's anything
Yeah,
in there?
there's certain, I don't remember what it's called, but you can agree to not, it won't be raised for a certain amount, for a certain number of years if you sign that. But
Could you check
We'll
and
have to
see if
see,
we
yeah.
have that? If we don't,
that sounds
it
familiar.
might come it comes every year.
yeah, but I mean, if we don't have anything in file, let's make an inquiry to find out if we've got it in
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
And if not, can we get information on something
Mhm.
that we could potentially put in
Yeah.
place?
It usually comes with the invoice.
Okay, all right,
I remember that when Claudia was there. I think we signed that.
No increase is certain.
Yeah. It does sound familiar.
I was just
Could be
curious.
wrong, but
All right.
okay. So we got more to do on that one. 4197 advertising and dues. We've only used about $566 so far this year. I'm wondering if 3,000 might be a little high, maybe make it 2,500 next year.
What type of projects are you going to have to put newspaper ads in for?
Bailey Road. Green Mountain Road likely.
Yep.
So two road projects.
And then planning, public hearings, they have their own advertising budget.
Yeah. But we've done similar to that this year, so.
And dues is what, LRPC? Or NHMA? What's
I
the
do not know
dues?
the answer to that question.
We should do some homework on that.
Okay.
I don't know what the dues is.
I know the organizations we joined in.
I think that was
I
in,
don't know, that's what I was just asking.
I believe that was in NHMA.
NHMA.
So at $566, I would say we probably haven't paid those dues this year.
Right,
So
so let me look at that.
let's see what we got and then kind of add it up, and 3,000 might be a good number.
Yeah, because 4130 was the dues we had. Yeah.
Anything else on this
Isn't,
one?
Lakes Region, doesn't that come out of the planning board?
The hazardous waste?
No, the dues.
LRPC,
Yes,
I don't
Yeah.
know,
yes,
that comes out of planning board.
4194. I mean, 91.
Yeah, association,
Yes.
1306.
Yeah.
Any public hearings of that, if it's the planning board and CBA, would come out of their own line item, because we have their own line item, so it wouldn't come out of this line item.
Right, but if we do public hearings for the board.
Oh, for the board,
Like,
yeah,
no, they'll come-
yeah.
that'll come out of here.
Oh, I thought you said the planning and
Oh,
CBA,
maybe she did,
I didn't ask that.
yeah, but
but that is
Okay.
separate.
All right,
we're still learning where everything comes out of. too.
next one up, EMS contract. In the budget actual, it's actually listed as 4215, and on our sheet here, it's 4220. So we just need to determine which is the correct number for the department.
Which one? In the sheet of what?
It's page 21, it's the EMS contract.
Mhm.
When I looked at it in the budget actual, it was actually line item 4215, not
Yeah.
4220.
That's the DRA number is 4215.
Okay.
Oh, okay, then I would change this one to 15,
Mhm.
DRA has it 15. I'll change that one to 15.
That's okay. We good.
No, is
Um,
this goes up 3% every year, is that what's in the contract?
Well,
But I
there's
don't
two
know.
things that come into play.
Two to three.
I'm gonna reach out to the Freedom chairman, select board chair, to find out when, and I'm hoping it's a when, not an if. The 6 towns are gonna have a meeting in the fall
Mhm.
to determine our allotments going forward into next year for everybody's budget.
Wasn't that
Last year.
scheduled for September?
Yeah, I think so. I think you talked to David Hatch. He's gonna do it in September. Isn't that what you guys talked about when you was here that day?
That
It
was the
hasn't,
minutes
it
from the
hasn't,
last.
it hasn't been firmed up as far as I know, because Action's not aware of it. And so I will do that,
Mhm.
but we need to try and get that done. The contract has a 2-part formula. One is a built-in inflation increase every year.
Right.
The other one is, the formula basically is what percentage does Effingham have of all total calls?
Yeah.
And last year, our numbers should have gone up based on our numbers, but they didn't want to do a meeting, and everybody held firm with the previous year's numbers,
Mhm.
so we made out.
You
But
might get whacked next year.
we're probably not gonna be the way we are today. It'll probably go up with a meeting, because our numbers have gone up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, if they're gonna prorate it, or they're just gonna go up based on the numbers I have for the ambulance usage for this year. Because, I mean, they didn't agree to go last year and meet to increase them
If they don't,
based on usage, so how can they're probably gonna go based on usage this year. Which means this already has a huge increase based on the usage of what we expected. So to me, we're probably, if they increase it, this is where we'd probably end up going close to. Because we were even about 4,000 over what they were projecting us for an increase.
yeah, and I
Because we
know-
weren't sure, so we wanted to hold a little extra cushion.
Yep, and I believe with the discussion I had a month or two ago with Randy, because they changed some of the response criteria, there wasn't, the ambulance didn't have to respond quite as much as it had in the past. So, because Green Mountain was one of the treatment center was one of the biggies. So our call numbers might be down. And that, if that's the case, then hopefully we'll be near where this number is, or
Yeah, so I mean, if you do make a call, are they going to be going off, if they do have a meeting to go off percentages, is it gonna be based on this year's percentages? Or are you gonna be, doing an average
the
of
way
the
the
last
contract
two?
says it's the existing year. So they'd have to do, we'd have to do a year to date and probably an extrapolation to year end.
Yeah, so I mean, I just did want to make sure they weren't gonna be doing an overall average of the last 2 years. Or were they just gonna be taking,
The formula says it's supposed to be done every year. So
and they
did average
refused
over 2
last year?
years. They just decided not to meet last year and do anything.
So if you talk, I mean, are they gonna be doing both, or are they gonna be doing just this year? I assume it's just this year, if they do meet.
I think it's pretty clear in contract. It's the current year numbers that determine next year's rate.
Yeah.
So it's not an average of any
So
previous years.
we may not, even if they do decide to go this year, be far off. is what-
I don't think, we're either gonna be near the number we had budgeted, 125, or maybe a little less.
Yeah, I would shock if we agree over that number by you.
Don't think so.
So I think holding toe on this number would be, to me, a very conservative number, even if they just raised it this year. That's my point of view of the numbers I would see.
So just, Lenny, for your input, when Mike ran the actual numbers last year, we should have been about 121, 122.
Mhm.
And because they didn't have the meeting to make the changes, we were frozen at the previous year's rate, which is around 86, I think.
77.
77. Okay.
So we're gonna have a significant savings in that area, just because they didn't meet. But we had a budget, obviously, like they were gonna meet and whack us with the extra. We had no choice.
So they'll get us this year. So
But it's already built into the tax rate at the 125.
Yeah, they can't come back and get us for last year. The contract doesn't allow for that, so it's what it. So, all right, so on that one, that's a to-do.
But you might be able to feel comfortable that the budget is sufficient.
I would say yes to that.
For the 125.
And the Green Mountain Treatment Center billings.
I billed them twice this year.
So
I've not
First
received-
quarter, second quarter,
I
okay.
haven't received anything, and I probably will send a statement in the next week or so to remind them.
Yeah, and just send them, just photocopy the contract and send it to them.
Mhm.
Just as a reminder, because I know in the past they've had some turnover with people,
Okay,
and it may be the new person sitting there doesn't realize what was agreed to.
will do.
And the contract will help.
They paid, they did not. I looked back and they have, in this year, they paid the fourth quarter of last year. That was
Oh,
a
they
payment
did?
we received, but they have not paid the two for this year.
All right, we need to jump on that one.
Do we have the percentages that they owe for this year?
Yeah.
The 13 grand, right?
The first bill, I think, was 3,700. This one might have been 4, so around that, in that ballpark. Yeah, for the year.
The numbers have dropped. That's why when I talked to Randy, because of the way they modified it, how they're going to go out for calls, it dropped. I just didn't know how much. So, but we can, I mean,
Yeah, because we sent them the bill for 13 grand.
but that was
No,
last,
That was
you
last
said,
year.
was
yeah,
last
that was
year.
last year.
that was last year.
Yeah.
Not this year.
Yes, because
But even
you're
so-
right, we're going a year back. We're pulling it in because we can't have the numbers till the final year. So we had to go a
So
year
they're
back.
actually doing quarterly, so it's whatever the previous quarter is based on current year's cost.
Right.
Here's what the run rate is.
Yeah, so we don't have that final number of what we're gonna be charging them for next year.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, it's variable.
Yeah.
At all, I mean, if they do whatever they're doing up there and decide to do full-time staffing and whatever, if they ever did anything approved that they had talked about earlier in the year,
Smoke break.
it may reduce it even more.
Yeah,
But this is
even-
where we need to
From
finish
Bill.
a sheet estimation of what they're gonna be giving us in 2022 for the 2021.
Well, current run rate 4,000 and 5,000.
I'm just saying, I mean, if I'm billing like 3,500 every quarter, that's
That's-
$14,000.
That's
So it's
basically what
around
you're
this
looking
number.
at, probably 14.
Yeah, what I was getting at, that number is based on the car rates. We don't have the car rates for 2021 yet total.
We do, we're getting the
We're getting
call
them
rates every
quarterly.
quarter.
Yeah, but I mean, for the final.
Oh, not for the
No,
final,
not-
no.
Can't do call rates if we haven't called yet.
Yeah, but I mean,
Exactly, so
Come on.
what I was saying, all we could do is estimate
Right.
for the final.
yeah,
Coming out
the
at.
the third quarter would be the interesting one, because that's the high tourist time of the year where everybody's here. But then basically, we could do an extrapolation from the 3 quarters of the year for the fourth quarter, and get a number that's pretty close.
So the only one you're seeing that they're holding off, not paying off for the final year is the fourth quarter one.
No,
No, they
Like
haven't
last
paid their
year?
bills yet for this year. We're gonna send them a statement. They have not paid March, they have not paid June.
Oh, they have.
Right. so
No,
we're
because
gonna
March
send
didn't go
them-
out until
yeah.
like May.
Yeah.
I didn't come till April. It was May by the time I sent that first quarter.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah,
And then I just sent the second quarter, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So,
so, but the numbers aren't gonna be as big as they had been in the past.
Yeah, I expect, I'm hoping it goes
The
down actually,
modification.
for our usage.
If that usage goes down, it's gonna affect our numbers across the board, which
Yeah.
is good. So, but in any event, they're covering their weight in the budget. For EMS. Okay. Good. Good one. So the forest fire warden, the 42 million, this is actually gonna go in underneath the fire department budget next year. Because the forest fire warden will be the fire chief. Dick is retiring at the end of this year. I
Well,
agree.
he's a different state number, so we'll just leave it at 4290.
Yep.
yeah,
But it'll be just Randy's.
Yep.
The Randy starts a new year for the new one, not that,
Just January of next year. The
Okay, so I
fire
have to
chief
change
will
that
be the
to,
fire warden.
the Randy.
Dick came in last year in one of the public meetings and basically said, can he have one more year
Yeah.
to get his 50th? And everybody agreed to that. And he said he would relinquish his title at year end. The following year.
I'll make that change.
And I don't think this
you
number,
Randy to do this budget for this year, or you're gonna do this budget?
Randy? No, he's gonna do it.
I didn't give this to him, so I,
Oh, yeah, no, send it to him.
I will.
Yeah, if you would. Okay, and I didn't think when I looked at it, I don't think anything had been spent at all this year on this line item.
correct.
So, and if I remember correctly, 2,500 is pretty much the number we've used for the last 3 or 4 years, is it not, Dave?
Hmm.
And I'm okay with 2,500 for that if everybody else is. Lenny?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion on,
So I'm not giving it to him.
But we don't have to get it to Randy, because you're not gonna give him an opportunity to submit.
you can give it to him, just let him know that if he wants to come back with a change, come back with a change, but if he doesn't come back with a change, it is what it is.
All right,
We did that last year too.
All right.
So, on a couple of them. So 4290 forest fire warden, recommended 2021-22 budget of $2,500. Take your second.
Second.
All those in favor, for aye.
Aye.
And Audrey, Randy had input in that last year to this entire line item.
It's just a new process for me. I normally see departments present, and it's, you know, in the agenda, so public can be present if they want to listen to the budget. Because, you know, now we're in a work session approving things and then having to,
The meeting hasn't stopped. We never closed, we never adjourned the meeting, so this is,
I know that.
no,
but-
right,
this is a valid meeting, we can make decisions.
I know, I'm not saying that,
Okay.
but, what I'm saying, it's a different process. I normally see department heads present prior to boards approving. So Effingham's just different.
Other than the fire warden, everything you've given us on the sheets is ours to deal with, not a department.
okay,
Yeah, and normally it would be presented, everybody will be presented, even to the select, they're all scheduled. So those dates that they've agreed to schedule, even if they approve that ahead of time, if anyone had wanted during that time that scheduled, said, I'm here because of the forest fire warden budget and this is what's on your schedule to do. We just pull the sheet out, discuss it at that time, that was discussed beforehand, and I'm sure that's probably the same way we'll handle it, like we did last year. So it's still scheduled for a public hearing. They can approve it beforehand, and it can be addressed again on that scheduled date on
It's
this.
just an unusual process to me.
Yeah, it's just a little different on that end.
Both of us were struggling with the process.
Because most of the select board
We'll get
stuff,
there.
we try to get done ahead of time, but it is still scheduled in that thing, you and Darlene, that we put out.
Mhm.
So I think that that still meets everything that we need for fire public access. You agree?
All right, 4312, highways and streets. Calcium chloride, looks like our current bill is just about 15 grand for what we've done. We did not do any second applications. Lenny, you mentioned in the past within seconds.
Yeah, well, we put half the dose on and then later in the year, put the other half. Instead of put 3%, we only put out 1.5%. And did it twice a year.
Some of the research Mike's been doing with DOT.
Yeah, he said it
It's
was.
basically 3% is what we should be putting down.
Yeah.
Because they've apparently proven that that works better.
Yeah, that seems to be, I mean,
So-
we tried it at 1.5 just to see how it was. But I mean, you still ended up with dust in between and the 3% seems, but of course, rain is helping.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rain has been different.
but that's hurting other ways too, so.
So from a calcium next year, do you want to plan on, I mean, I'm looking at the amount of rain we've been getting, and if climate patterns hold and we end up with weather like this next year, we're probably gonna have to do more with the roads.
Yeah, I think the 3% application is the way we ought to keep going with it because we.
One
do
time
grade
no, or two times?
One time.
One time.
Yeah, I agree with Mike on that from what I've been seeing on maintenance on the roads and what we've been doing.
So can we reduce this number?
Well, I wouldn't reduce it because, yes, it works good on some roads. Jack Russell Road, I'm sure it works better on,
Oh, yeah,
but you take.
Granite Road.
Granite
a
Road,
whole
Clough
different
Road,
ballgame.
Hunter's Bridge Road, I mean, those, one application, I don't think is enough because you get a rain, you get to grade it, and then now you've lost it, so. Not
May
every
have
road,
to Later on in August, come back and give it another application.
right, just on
Just
certain
because of the
roads,
grading, yeah,
yeah, just on certain roads, not every road.
especially some of the hill on Granite when you're coming up, you get the washboard and all
Yeah.
that, and then you have to regrade it, and you don't want to lose that. all
Well,
that
I'm
fine
good leaving it right where it is, because I can see potential of.
If we get the last bill in from calcium chloride,
I would have to look at it.
I would assume that we spent more than that.
I would have thought so.
Yeah, I don't think that's including the last bill.
Okay, then that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure it's not, but,
Well, they put out 2 roads that I know
yeah,
They did,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we got billed for the 2 loads, this one.
I'm not sure. I
Well,
mean,
But this, could we just
Well,
check
if-
and find out if,
of. If we didn't, we're gonna be over budget at 26, because they've already spent 15. so.
yeah,
If
I
that's
don't
for
know.
one load, that's a lot of money for one load. so.
Yeah, it's been 14,960.
Yeah,
well, I know they had, they brought it in by tanker.
yeah,
Because he was parked in the library parking lot while he offloaded to the local truck.
Oh,
for
There's 2
spread.
roads too, right?
but,
2 different days. Isn't it?
Yeah, it was 2.
yeah, with a small truck applying it,
Yeah, but he fills up in the tank.
He
that they
fills
bring
up.
into town.
but I'm saying they only distributed the 2 loads out of the, on the
Right.
roads.
So,
which kind of surprises me because the year before that, we did 3%. We spent 23.
Yep.
And I'm wondering why, we only spent
We don't know
15 if we did all the roads. I guess that's why I asked about.
Yeah, so maybe we haven't got all
Oh,
of
let me
those.
check.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's pull that invoice and just take a look at it. That's the thing to do.
But I would suspect that we would be at least 3,000 savings if it is. So
Yeah, we
have
should
some
be
extra.
close to what we spent last year.
No.
Maybe
Definitely
we
not.
did something different, I don't know. Oh, we missed some roads.
But they only,
I-
did they come
supposedly-
back a third time last year? I mean,
No, not that I'm aware of.
second time last year?
Nowhere.
No?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's why it makes sense to check the invoices. Materials. What have you spent 32.6 so far this year? And we had some gravel roads. Not gravel, but, that's probably a good number.
Yeah, I would be hesitant about dropping that,
No, I
considering
wouldn't.
how much we have to, with any washouts, and then you need a little bit of extra room on that.
Road contractor, that would be a good number. At 95, roadside mowing clearing, I would say leave that at 25 based on the new process we're looking at using.
So the amount that we spent on that, that was from just Ron moving stuff back. as
He
far
had,
as-
yeah, because of the
probably
stuff that
Snow
happened
Road.
with broken windshields from some of the trees and stuff that were hanging over the road. His crews went around and did a spot removal of a number of,
Okay, it wasn't because we started the roadside mowing, all right?
No.
Okay, because I know, Tom, you've been working with somebody, so I didn't know if we started, and then I just got this.
no, to Lenny's point, if that machine has one of those lift up arms that you do higher, that'll actually help everything.
We'll know that on Thursday.
Signs and equipment, I think 15 is a good number. I know we've only spent like 11, but we do need some more signs.
Yeah,
Right.
last year we
So-
spent 14.
So we'll come up, we'll spend up to around 15 this year. Winter road contract, that's set. Winter road material. Use 37.3. So I think that number is probably good at
So we
70.
still have, obviously, late October, November, December. To use some of it.
January, February, March, early April, so about the same amount of time.
Yeah, so I think that would be, like you said, we're probably.
I think we're in
We're
pretty
good
good
with
shape on
that.
that number.
Yeah.
It'll be close.
Yep.
Crack sealing.
That's pretty much what we've been
the-
operating on, what we can afford during the.
So
We just signed that today.
we know we're gonna do 2 pallets of 5,800 a pallet.
Mhm.
And we're only gonna do portions of 3, 4 roads. So I'm not thinking we're gonna do more next year, because the roads that aren't being done are really in bad shape.
Yeah, we got townhouse, transfer station, Bailey Road, and if anything's left, Tempest Bridge is what we agreed on, right?
So I'm good moving this one down a little bit. I could say 15 and I think we'd be safe.
Fifteen, you said,
Yeah,
Chuck?
just make a note on it, yeah. And we'll vote on this one a little bit later and we get a
Mhm.
little bit better numbers. Because the other thing is, I don't know with the winter material, if we've managed to bring any big hauls of salt into the shed during the summertime or not.
I was there on Thursday someone there, you went up there, didn't you?
Yeah, I
See
don't
about
have
the
to see
ceiling?
how much was in there if we could seal it.
Yeah, that's right. It was about maybe a quarter and a half.
Yeah, it was about half full.
Yeah.
Well, there's salt on one side and salt the
Right.
same mixed on the other.
So that's the same, so nothing's.
Okay,
Abnormal.
Hmm?
Not abnormal.
so, okay, and we have contracts in place for the 3 different programs that are available to us, so
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you that. We don't need a new contract for next year?
we should not.
Okay.
I think they're, well, could you pull one of them, pull a Morton one and find out if it's got a specific time frame to it? I don't remember that it did. It was, we were
I
signing.
think they send over every year
And then
to ask what we're gonna use,
could
what
be.
we think we're gonna use.
So,
Okay.
and if we get that question, it's like whatever we used last year. Okay. Anything else as far as comments that we need to do some homework on? Oh, the other thing I made note here too. And one of the things I want to take a look at, based on some of the new DOT training that Mike took, and from what my neighbor had talked to me about, is basically try 2 or 3 of our worst roads, gravel, and do a grade, water, calcium, and then do a paving roll on it. So my neighbor's been doing paving for close to 40 years and has run some large companies, paving companies. And he told me before we actually did this year, if we'd have done that on Snow Road, it would have been like a paved road pretty much the entire season because of the way it packs. And I will say that my observation of the timing we put stuff down on a Friday with the calcium, the rain we had on Saturday, and then all of the town going to the transfer station to and from on Saturday and Sunday, packed it really, really well. And with all the extra rain we've had, in the past on Concord Hill, you get any kind of rain, there's always a big washout on the corner of the ledges. And it was only the last storm where it actually brought it down 3-4 inches. Other than that, it hasn't gone down at all. So I think there could be some merit to try it.
What kind of cost? That's.
Don't know. We
in
need,
a
we need,
roll-up.
we need to find out what's available. Ron actually owns a roller, but he usually leases it out to other towns. So we can make an inquiry to find out. That would be something to give.
That is in his hourly,
He must list it
listed as the hourly
in
usage
his contract.
in the contract.
I'm not sure he's even got it in the contract. We can check it.
He
Because
lists all his equipment,
Yeah,
every piece,
I don't remember seeing a paving roller in there.
or maybe he bought it afterwards.
Well,
no, he had the roller
it's
when he
not
did
when he uses.
townhouse road.
That's
Oh, you
on
did?
Ron's contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
check and see what the
Yeah,
equipment
it's a-
rates.
It was
If-
a laboratory roller.
I'd be surprised it's not in there. I mean,
Yeah.
We're pretty detailed,
Yeah, every
Well,
piece of
right
equipment.
down to a chainsaw,
Okay.
Yeah.
right?
Hopefully I'm wrong, sir. Like
I just might give you some idea.
Yeah, so.
Going about 2 miles an hour for 1 mile. road.
But yeah,
12
good point,
times.
though.
You gotta go at least up and back, yeah.
12 times.
So, yeah, I just don't know what that would be, so.
Now, Ospey does their roads that way, and I don't know how much longer it lasts. I mean, you go with Effingham Road, you know, where Clough Road comes on Effingham Road, because a lot of it's the way people drive.
Yeah,
You
that's what
know,
I
and
was
there's a
thinking about,
stop
too.
sign there too, so, you know.
Yeah, the hill gets washboarded even
Oh,
though they
yeah,
roll. it.
all the way out.
even though they
all the
roll
way
it.
out. So,
I know what you mean.
yeah, but
But
if
there's
they
some of
didn't
their
roll
back
it,
roads,
if they didn't roll it, I don't know how much.
Well,
Sooner
that's
or
why I was
later.
saying, it might be worth trying it on just a few of the, couple of the roads. And
Yeah,
and
do
see
it on Snow Road, Concord Hill, try it.
that one or even granite.
Well, we don't have really any hills on granite.
Oh, I see what you're saying, looking for the hill portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But there's not a lot of, we won't get a lot of traffic on it. So now that the bridge is open.
Right.
Well, we can
Effingham
find- we can
Road.
find one, well, Hunter's Bridge Road would be one to try it on. There's a lot of car traffic on that one.
So we just say on the weekends that the Fuller's giving out donuts and coffee. Go that way.
Well, we can close the bridge again.
So, Derby.
Yep.
Yeah, you may want to try it on one road just to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need to try it.
And
on.
get some feedback maybe from DOT, I mean, from the Department of Velocity, what they're seeing. I mean, are they continuing that? I haven't seen that out.
It was, somebody was telling me, somebody.
I've
was
seen
doing
their
something
graders out, I've seen their calcium out. I didn't see the roller out this year on the ones that I went by.
Yeah, they were up on, they were doing Effingham Road, and Clough Road, and-
With the roller?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I didn't see that, that's all.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, when you come out of that Effingham Road, you start up,
Yeah.
that, because I go that way quite a bit, because I'm usually going over to see Jory or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'll go to Austin, you know, go to town, and I hit that. and-
Yeah. On a weekend, you can't get out Elm Street anyway, so.
No, I try to get around as much as I can.
You'd be surprised at people that know that road. I've met quite a few
Oh, yeah.
cars on there with red and white plates.
Yep, I did the other day, like 4 of them in a row. It's like, what's
What are you
going on?
doing over
I
there?
stopped doing that, and then now I go around and take the pickpocket.
Yeah,
Let's get back on point.
All right, 4313 Bridges. We opened this one up last year and put a placeholder in it.
guardrails or,
And I'm thinking we need to do a little bit more than $1,000 next year. So maybe this is a candidate for the ETF. If we close out the town cemetery ETF, take 10 of it and put it right over here.
yeah, well, I mean, your initial idea of opening up was to obviously wash the salt out of the bridges, and then if we had any minor work on the guardrails or something like that, would give us an idea of a placeholder of how much we're spending, because we had no idea how much we were spending, but then Lenny brought up about the fire department hosing it down, and I don't know if that's ever been requested this year.
It was, but they didn't do it. It wasn't a formal request. It was a sidebar discussion. So along this line, I actually did talk to Hanson the other day, before he finished everything up. And I asked him about ongoing maintenance. And he's got a portion of his company that actually does that. And they basically contract with numbers of towns around the state. And it's basically $800 a bridge, but they come in and they power wash it.
Oh,
To make sure that all the salt and the sand and everything is out of that. He said if you do that, you'll extend the life of any of your bridges by a lot.
and even if it's on 3 bridges,
Right, so it's like,
then we don't have to depend on personalities
We only got the
or
3,
uses or
We only got 3.
so $2,400.
well, one in the woods, it's
Yeah,
dirt.
but I mean, there's no decking or anything.
No, I mean,
So,
No, but he explained what they brought in. They have special equipment. just
so
to
that would be
do it.
24.
2,400, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then you got a contract company, you're not gonna miss it.
Mhm.
The office does not gonna be required to keep track of something, that thing should be automatic. So that, oh, we gotta remember to ask the fire department to come out and do this or
so
whatever.
it's 800 regardless of size.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's Hunter's
Golden
Bridge.
Gate Bridge,
Yeah,
Hunter's Bridge is a little bit bigger than Snow Road Bridge.
well, and I know when I asked him that, even if he was pulling a number off the top of his head, he worked on Elm Street, he worked on Snow Road, so he understands the length of a couple of the bridges.
Yeah.
You know, Hunter's a little
Too
longer.
crazy not to.
So, all right, we'll take a look at 2,400 on that one then. And I'll reach out to Hanson and see if I can get more information from him. Okay. 4316 street lighting. So when you did your homework last year,
Yeah,
we had 15 lights that we thought we could get rid of,
it started at 23.
23, but then we didn't go down to 15.
Yeah, 15.
And then we got an actual number by light
like
based on
9, I
the
think,
age
wasn't
of the light,
Yeah,
and that was like
and mounts,
$3,600 if I remember correctly.
right.
So the question I have is, do we want to send them, do we want to basically, we'll do a public select board meeting, we'll do a ride around in one of our vehicles, and we'll look at each one of those locations, you know, to confirm those are the lights we want to pull, because I think you came back and said we were going to pull them or not pull them.
I think they already got an order to pull them, right, Audrey?
You got an order to pull those?
Eversource?
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. I have to follow up because we've placed the order, we've complained about the order with, and
Oh, never mind. I thought we were still talking about. Good.
Yeah, no, we had come up to the, I think it's down to 9 now or something. That,
Because looking at the cost of an ongoing, it's worth the one-time investment to get rid of
Mhm.
a number of lights. So,
And once again, intersections they stand on.
you had an estimate of how much that 9 lights would drop it?
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it did, but I just
Throw a
remember the
number
number
out
was,
there and I
it was a
was
little over $3,000 to
Okay.
get rid of them all.
I'll email to you, I got told them.
Yeah. If you
But
can-
that would affect next year's budget if we can get them off before the end of the
That's
year. right?
kind of where I'm going with it.
9 lights was 3,600.
One time to remove them.
Oh,
Either 9 or 12 on that list.
Sure.
They
Remove.
wouldn't, yeah, it's like,
12 was it?
it was basically turn them off, same price. Turn them off, remove them, same price. So it's kind of like, and if we want to leave them there and then turn them back on, we have to do an install. And the install has to be with a new light. It's like, nah. So, We'll take a look and see if we can.
$400.
But first you gotta get back in touch with you.
Right, that's the problem.
This has been
It's
a
awful getting in
nightmare.
touch with them.
But. I didn't even
So
check
we
to see
can't
what
guarantee
the
they're gonna be
run rate is.
taken care of by the end of the year, either, not the rate that ever source of the return.
Yeah, we don't know what
Cost.
any savings would be for dropping the nine lights either.
Yeah, when they talk to you on the phone, it's like you're supposed to know this stuff and.
If we're
Not now.
realizing a savings of $100 a year to remove nine lights.
No, there was,
Took 2 months to get them to extend the thing at the library.
Yeah.
Cover up the cable, but yeah.
yeah, and the light they were supposed to fix 8 months ago is still out.
And up on Ironside, 153. That one's still out too. The work order in since before we started this.
COVID,
Huh?
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So looking at the run rate, maybe we ought to leave them off. Don't put a work order in, because it's reducing the electric bill.
No, they still charge you. for it.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
I
still
know.
charge.
Still charge
Nice try.
So we got a $3,620 through July rate, so it looks like we should be okay with the budget this year.
Yeah,
And I think we need to wait until we can figure out if we get close to the year end and they still haven't been removed, then I think we're gonna put a number in. for
Because
next
at
year.
one point, we even stopped paying the bill to see if they'd respond to us. That didn't get anywhere. We just had to pay it so we wouldn't be.
that and interest.
Yeah.
So,
We are caught back up with them, aren't we? Aren't we?
Yes.
everybody good waiting on that one until we get a little more info? Okay, good. 4323 solid waste collection. Notes I had on here. At the current run rate we're at, we're gonna be at a salary item of about 85.2 for the year. So we'll potentially have to take a look at whatever the run rate is, plus whatever the salary increase is that we decide to give the folks up there. Supplies, one of the things we're gonna need to take a look at adding next year, as soon as I can get a hold of Clean Harbors and get a number, we're probably gonna have to buy some test kits.
Hmm.
And I believe the price tag they gave us was like either $8 or $9 a piece, and I'm figuring we're gonna need at least a few dozen of them to have on site. And then we don't have any turnover in personnel. We should be okay with coats and jackets and vests. Gloves always are an issue, so that'll come out this year.
Shoes, is that every year? The boots?
I forget what we had said on that. I know we
They
do a
would give them
stipend-
X amount of
we do a
dollars for
flat
it.
stipend on it
Yeah.
up to, and I just don't remember what is an annual number or not,
That was 75 a year.
Yeah. That's right.
so,
75.
I think it was 75 a year.
okay. Well, we've already done 1,175 this year, so we're gonna push our number, maybe go over it a little bit.
You have the new number of what we have accumulated in the trust?
The revenue for the transfer station goes into that special fund.
I don't know the total on that. but
I
can
do, I
find-
do,
Oh, good.
45,000,
45?
35.
Oh, 35. Thank you.
It's
What
just
do we
what
call
it's
that? We
generated.
call it
in
Special
funds.
revenue fund, right?
Yeah, so the way it's set up is.
Is that
any
right,
revenue
Darrell?
comes in
Special
Yeah.
revenue fund?
station.
So when we established
That's the
that
checking.
2 years, ago,
Oh,
this is the second
second.
year.
I would say them, yeah.
So it's generated 30.
Uh,
Cool.
So here's the balance in the right-hand column of what we have to cash in the bank, and that's after the big school payment of last week.
Oh, that's awesome, thank you.
So I left both columns showing in my Excel spreadsheet.
I know. And you said that was after the big school payment?
Yeah, that's after, and that's why, in the first column, you're seeing a negative amount, negative something in the, operating account. That's because that's how the sweep account works. The checks were hitting, the school check hit,
Yep.
and then they sweep it all out, or, if there's more money, or they put 125 in. So that's why in the right-hand column, I made the adjustment to put the 125 plus a -4 into that account. So the right-hand column is a balance, but I thought it would be useful learning purposes to see what it looks like prior to the nightly sweep.
Mhm.
And then the right-hand column should be what it was basically this morning. I didn't go and look, but that's the way it works.
So in your work on the whole QuickBooks thing, have you got any kind of a forecast between now and when we send out tax bills December 1? With the
No,
known
because
expenses we're
We
gonna
don't
have?
know how much in taxes are outstanding or how many.
I'm
registered-
more worried to make sure we can pay the school bills on time. Last year was the first year in a number of years we've been able to pay the school bills on time without holding them over and waiting for the very last minute before we get them done.
Yeah, so no, we don't forecast in QuickBooks. I don't know what the final estimate is of December taxes. Or when
And,
they-
No,
In
I just want to
September.
make sure there's enough money in the checkbook to keep us afloat to the beginning of December. I don't care what we do for taxes in December. I want to make sure there's enough money in the checkbook based on all the
I can do
obligations
that.
we have.
I can do that.
Just.
Because in September, we're gonna be doing the revenue for DRA anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the forecast for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So we will be able to pull that
Right.
together once I get all the cash entered into QuickBooks,
Okay,
which I'm working on.
yeah, because 2 years ago, we had like pretty near 100 grand left
Right.
for like a month. And we were just trying to make sure that we could pay the salaries and the other bills.
Yeah.
Last year, we did not have that problem because of the way we had started to build things.
We can
up.
certainly figure that out.
So I just want to
But
make
it'll
sure
just be
that
another couple months.
as long as there's no red flags, I'm good. If you think there's a red flag and you hear about it.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We're about 600 to 700,000 behind the property taxes. After the last July bill. That was due,
Yeah.
it was due the end of July, so we're in that 6+.
Again, okay.
Yeah, we're higher than what we,
I'll check it out
but
there
we
next-
we anticipate that, at least it has been for a trend, get back into the 400s. Where we have been consistently until we hit that $3 one that raises us up in the 6s. But then that settled out, now we're going back into the $3 one, so I anticipate December bill, it would not surprise me if that goes from the
Higher.
400, if we're back in the 800-900 on taxes. That would not be
That wouldn't surprise
a
me.
shock.
Well, we should be getting some more in though, because they went out a little late, right?
They're all,
Sales.
they
I
they
know
went
they're
out a
due
little
in
late,
Jan- I
but
know
they
they're-
extended the date to come back in to the end of July.
Mm.
So everything is due now. I mean, closed,
Over.
and now you're
Everything's
getting
over now.
interest paid.
Okay.
I'll just give you an idea.
You said you
I'm
had
not
to buy
saying
test
it's-
kits, what is that for?
Say what again?
For the oil, used oil.
Oh,
Maybe,
the used oil.
Yeah,
test
the
kits.
waste oil.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, please
I,
go
when
on.
you just said test kits, I wasn't sure. what that
I'm
was.
sorry. Yep.
COVID tested.
Please.
When you deposit your oil, you
invasive species.
Yeah.
no, that'll help us manage it to see if we get anything that's contaminated, so it
Yeah.
would reduce our
Okay,
potential liability of. you
So we
know,
can blend.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Hazardous waste day, we spent 1629 in 2020, 1629 this year, so I think 17 is probably a good number there. And mileage, we've done 42 this year. So part of that is the Brad is on call for the police department. So that if we end up getting reports of dump trash or whatever in the town,
Oh,
he'll go and take a look at it and we'll pay him to bring it back.
so you ought to be funding that for a certain amount on the line, and then if he's being called out.
It's a sporadic thing. He's been called out 3 times since we started it 4 months ago. So, and we're probably gonna see the bulk of that.
I don't think that's Brad, he's never put in for mileage.
He's never put in for mileage?
No, I think the
Oh.
mileage for this
I
year was
thought I
for,
saw that on one of his time sheets.
It was for
Rail-
Bill.
yeah, to
going
go
the
to
Hazardous waste
hazardous waste day
workshop.
Okay.
workshop. And I can look back on
Just check.
Why,
that, 'cause
Brad?
I remember-
Yes.
I don't think he has any mileage.
Okay, I thought I saw.
But maybe
that
he should be.
a few weeks
I
back.
think he just puts the hour, there's a
He
2 hour.
pays- he gets paid
minimum.
hourly to do
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, so we know this is related to the hazardous waste day travel, okay? Repairs and maintenance. So 384 is what's in here, plus the emergency call we had last week. It's not in here. And I'm thinking we should still keep the number up there because those compactors are not getting any younger.
No,
And
you do for oil change coming up too again.
yeah, well, I think that service contract was probably one of the best things we did.
But does that cover the oil change? Then we have this,
It's supposed, when they
And
originally
both
did
cars.
it was.
yeah, we did it, what, 2 years ago we did it. Should be done every, what, 3?
Yeah, but when we had it done the first time, it wasn't waste management that did it, waste
Right.
management took it over. And their checklist is more comprehensive than the previous items checklist. So I don't know the answer to the question, whether the oil's on it. I just, so I do have a question now, is where does that, does the maintenance of that contract, if it's an annual maintenance contract for us?
It's $344 a quarter, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
would you just check that?
Yep.
Because if that's the case, this number up there actually is off.
Now that maintenance contract, that doesn't cover any of that, what happened last week? Do we know?
Do not know the answer to that question yet. This was an emergency.
Yeah,
call.
right, yeah.
So what happened was, when we had that power outage last week, it was kind of area wide. It was out for about 30 seconds. One of the compactors was in the process of compacting when it went down.
Mhm.
When they went to reset it, because they do manual resets, they blew all the breakers. So set them off. So they were all reset, then they were trying to figure out how to get them going again. And the panel inside the building has 4 different options for buttons. One of those is hands-free, and the third one over is auto. And everybody thought to restart would be the auto, so they kept pushing auto. And auto was not it, hands-free, the one far to the left. was
And it
over
cranked right up.
As soon as he did that, turned it out, everything turned on and worked perfect.
Oh,
So I don't know the answer to your question. relative to-
There wasn't any big parts in that,
No parts. So, but,
but the oil was a question.
okay. Darlene, can you just check and see if that is a 300 a quarter?
Yep.
Bill, thank you. Anything else on this one?
We just ought to think about while you're reviewing this is the trust fund. Because now that we have the special fund for replacement, the trust fund was also putting money away just in case for replacement. Now we're sitting at almost 23,000 in there for the trust fund for the transfer station. So maybe just get a little thinking in your mind of, do we need to keep it at that amount? Can we,
Well, we do need to keep it at that amount because the only way we can get money out of that 35 grand is through a warrant article at town meeting.
Oh, yeah.
If we have something that comes up that's big, we're gonna need to dive into the ETF to cover it because we can get into that one. So we're gonna need to keep a pretty good balance in
The
that.
oil container, $6 grand.
So, from that standpoint, we're definitely gonna need to keep a balance in there. And I remember that big discussion once we found out that the only way the money can come out of that reserve fund is through a
do a
warrant.
warrant article?
What's the lifespan of a compactor? Do we know that?
2 years ago, or 3 years ago, when I was looking at this with the transfer station ordinance, it was 15 to 18 years. But one of the compactors we bought used,
Yeah.
so it already had years on it. And apparently that one is in better shape than the brand new one we bought. So, the annual maintenance was the big thing. They weren't being maintained as properly as they should, but now with this waste management thing, the checklist they go down through, because they do hoses, they do hydraulics, so they do everything.
Oh, I know, I sat through a whole maintenance thing with them.
And it's way better than anything we've had in the past. That should help us. Hopefully with lifestyles. All right, solid waste disposal. Here's some numbers where I think we're gonna need to increase next year. So, electronics, we've already spent $1,678 this year, and we've still got probably another load before year end, so I'm thinking we should probably be up in the neighborhood of 2,200 next year from 2,000. The Freon, we've only had one this year. I haven't looked at the white goods fenced area. Does anybody remember, has anybody looked down here to see how full that is?
Yeah, I think we're good. I don't think we'll have another one this year.
Good, okay, so 500 should be good for the Freon.
And Mark said the same thing. He thinks that we're good to go till after the first year.
Okay,
I'll double check with him.
yep. Glass, we've already spent 1,100. Mark did tell me that metal and glass and tires are quite a bit up from previous years. So glass next year, I'm thinking we probably ought to pay like 1,300. Because we're gonna have at least another 2 to 3 loads of that before. So we don't need to do that one now, but I think we do need to increase it.
We also got to think about, I'm gonna replace that truck bed with something that's a little more, right? That they put in the glass and then they,
It's not falling through the bed yet, is it?
We got plenty more trucks in town.
okay,
So what's the concern?
we're gonna need to get something there to replace that, right? I mean, that was a temporary,
That seems to be working.
Yeah,
got
that
another
doesn't-
truck bed?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just-
No, that one isn't rusted out yet.
I mean, it's got a good bed in it at this point.
Piece of cardboard in it, I mean, plywood in
A
it.
small piece of metal on there, and once the holes start showing up, we just put something on there and slide it right off.
Okay,
My neighbor's got a bed liner out there inside the road for sale. Just grab that.
I'm trying to be proactive here, Tom.
I guess not, huh?
Question I have on metal, we got no transportation costs in here. There should be a whole lot of transportation costs in here for metal.
I am still working on trying to sort some of these things out. And
Okay.
Mike and I have been trying to get together and it hasn't happened.
Okay.
So
right.
some of the things are probably not where they need to be.
And the thing I learned from him last year, and he's kind of reiterated to me, is that invoicing system they have is rather convoluted. And he has a technique that he's used to kind of help him quickly navigate through the pages.
Well, hopefully he'll share that.
Yeah, so just asking that.
Yeah.
Can you see him?
Yeah, he's been talking about that for the last 2 years,
Which one?
about the metal, the hauling, because it wasn't showing up on the invoices and it was all included, as he says, so you
And
can,
it's broken out.
someday we may expect that they will catch that and throw in the hauling fee.
No, they are. They are. It's because it's broken out now. So we did get it broken out.
We did get it broken out?
Yeah. But it's one of those things like at this stage of the game, we just need to make sure that we looked at it to verify it.
Okay, because they weren't charging us a hauling fee for
Yeah.
a little while.
Tires, we've spent 400. And I know Mark told me that there were people bringing in plenty of tires, so we're probably gonna end up with another load or two out of that. And I think we've only had, I think it's $400 a load that goes that way.
So we have enough for one more load.
Yeah, 2 years on that, 800. Should be close. Used oil. I will get, once I get the gallon rates for disposal, we can project a number on that. Anything else on that page? Okay. 4325 solid waste. The contract that we just got in for HEB to do the monitoring on that, my recollection was it was like 2,900. Can we just validate what the dollar figure was?
They've gone out once already. The email I gotten back and they bill really late, so we won't get a bill and actuals in there for another month, but
But this one
I'll
should,
ver-
this one should be on
I'll
a
verify the
contract.
amount.
This is a contract item, so we should be able to have a number on
Mhm.
what it is. And the PFAS testing, I would still leave that at 2,500. Is in the event monitoring wells come back and show something, we may have to do additional testing, and those were $200 a pop.
So obviously, we haven't had to do any so far to date.
When I know at least one of the wells showed something last year, but it was below.
But the state didn't come back this year and said,
No,
okay, because we were
No.
worried about that when we put the money in, that the state was gonna come back and mandate that we had to do another round on a certain amount of wells. They didn't do that yet?
no, not yet.
Okay,
So we still have to do our regular landfill cap monitoring. And I'll have to check with Mike, but I believe the original discussion was at some point, like every 3 or 4 years, we had to do everything again. I just don't remember what that was. I'll ask him.
Why was it so high last year? The $8,000 last year.
Because we ended up having to test everything within a mile radius.
Okay, so that went into this monitoring is not just the test wells in the landfill.
no, that's
Everything.
that's just the PFAS.
Yep.
And they were also testing other things out.
Yeah, it was actually together. It was,
Yeah.
my guess is that,
Oh, no, the reason we put the PFAS line in was because we expected them, we separated it out because we expected them to come in.
Okay, so all the water well testing and
All the
everything
water
went
well
into the
testing.
monitoring of the landfill.
Yep. came
Yeah,
in.
they had to do with that one certain radius that we had to cover.
And the 496, or we've done 730 this year already, according to the budget actual, and that included one of the houses that didn't show up on the survey that we did and didn't get tested, so we ended up having to test that earlier in the year. So, yeah, that's one, we'll never know. We'll just have to have some money sitting there, and when we get told to do testing, we'll do testing. So, and we should have the HEB report back in plenty of time if we need to adjust this number for additional PFAS testing.
I know they, on the landfill monitoring, when we did it last year, that there was an additional test the state required us to do. That was expensive, so that's why that number went to 4,000.
Jumped, yeah.
So I don't remember what the additional test is. I have to go back and look at my old notes, but I know there was another test the state required us to do yearly. And it wasn't the PFAS, it was something else that we had to do. That's why that number went up to that.
Yeah, and I know there's been efforts to add more testing for different compounds of PFAS.
So looking at budget to actual, it looks like we only spent 730, so
Yep.
leads me to believe we
We're in good
didn't
shape.
do the state required test yet.
That's why I want to see the contract. This contract's supposed to have that in there.
Okay, so we have a person that is designated to come take it at specific times.
HEB is under contract to do the monitoring testing and provide a report.
Right, or either that, we just haven't got the billing from them, whatever.
Health agencies, 4415. This particular discussion for the last 2 years, we've actually done joint with the budget committee. To basically listen to people coming in and then make decisions on it. So I'm thinking on this one, we do the same thing again this year.
So we'll do the same thing?
Yep.
Yeah, because I know we voted to, because of the new members, to still have people come in, because we were gonna not have, presentations, but the 2 new members felt it was useful. So
Yeah, this
you
way-
will have to sit through that again if you do that.
Yeah, so I mean, if people are willing to do it one time, we'll just do it once.
Yeah, I'll schedule everything, dates and times and all that.
I received a $500 request from CASA. CASA is the court appointed kind of advocate.
Advocate, yeah.
Yeah, so they sent me a request for $500.
They're not one of our nonprofits, so
They don't get paid.
they don't get paid.
What I did is I pointed her to the website, to the form that's there, so if there is a new nonprofit, they can apply for it and you can take that into consideration.
No, they have to go with the warrant article. I think I gave.
Yeah,
that.
you told me, but I didn't know that they called her. She probably wasn't in on that conversation.
Yeah.
So,
You've got the information, but they have to actually
do a
file
warrant
a
article.
warrant article to the town for a new nonprofit budget. So I can't go just based on the form they fill out for information. They have to go to the town meeting.
Declare that one.
Yeah, I gave Darlene the old article, warrant article, one had actually put into the town. Kind of a pain in the butt, that's the rules of how they get in on the system,
All right, I'll let her know.
even though it's not much they're asking.
Okay,
Excuse me, well, I also probably going to overrun this year because Starting Point did not cash their check from last year. So we're gonna reissue the check. So we're gonna expect them to go over.
Why would we not cancel the check?
we will, but we have to reissue it. According to the auditor.
You know, following on their.
Where will be going over?
To be going over by the 2,500.
It's gonna be coming out of this
Be
year.
coming out of be coming out of the.
I don't know if they even received it, or and they lost it, or we just. the mail.
Close you have it to them?
Yeah, and so I put several phone calls into them and I haven't had a call back.
That's what the light company.
So the question is do we issue them 2,500 from this year?
It seemed like they needed last year's.
That's
an obligation. I know. Approved in the budget last year. I think we got an obligation.
But I mean, this year though,
We're just gonna have to show it as an overage.
Yeah.
this year, like he's saying, do we want to pay him another 25?
We'll see what we'll see if they come
Well, we
in.
approve the overall budget, you have the authority to move stuff around as you want, but just as you do with anything, that doesn't necessarily mean, just because we approve the K-9, doesn't mean that you have to fund the K-9. You have the ability in the operating budget to move stuff around, that's been pointed out numerous times, the select board has that authority. But understandable, it's a
intent from all of
nonprofit,
this-
which is very, very touchy, so I'd be hesitant about not funding the nonprofit where the town is pretty supportive of the nonprofits.
And I think of all the discussions we've had. at
Yep,
budget
so I
committee,
just want to make sure that
That's good.
we get both sides
You
together.
said
Wait
It's up to
until they
you.
come in this year and see what they're even asking for.
Yeah, they may ask just for the, we reissue the check and they may not ask for the 25, and then that
We haven't
25
even
will
talked
go
to
to the
them.
next year. Who knows?
Okay. Anything else on that page? Okay, 44, 42 general assistance. This has been a big discussion item as long as I've been involved with budget committee or selectmen, and the number we've fallen on annually is 12,000, and I think that's a solid number based on the risk the town has.
Yeah, we don't want to, I don't believe we want to go lower than that number.
So,
We're gonna have something in the bank.
you good with that?
Yeah.
Lenny?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion on item 44, 42 general assistance to approve 12,000 for the 21-22 budget season. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, full aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Meals on Wheels. Same thing. We've been pretty much level funding that for the last few years. We've been coming in close to it.
Let's leave that for the joint schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have the opportunity to come in and give a presentation.
Oh, they do?
too.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, their run rate was a little over 4,000, so
Yeah,
it's,
I assume it's gonna be the same thing.
Yep.
I mean,
that's good.
we ought to keep it all the nonprofits together. They
Yep.
just happen to have a different state number. That's
That's
all.
good. That'll work. 4520 Parks and Rec. We did 10,000 this year, and based on the email about the projected increase for 2022, I discussed earlier that I'll meet with Matt Sawyer over in Ossipee and try and ascertain a program process before we come back.
Yeah, you got the thing about getting info from Tim, right?
You see the new number?
Yeah, I saw the new number and I asked Chuck to reach out to Tim because Tim was pretty adamant with a lot of data on. And I know back like I told Chuck also 3 years ago, pre-COVID, that Melissa came in with a bunch of numbers when they were trying to raise us up to this based on percentage of usage. And this budget committee and select board over there agreed that that was too big a hit for our town because we were getting a big tax increase. They knew it, so they held off. And sounds like there might be some room negotiation because we are seeing a big increase coming in December. We might be able to phase it in over time, or Tim may end up giving you some data that I believe he's gonna point you guys in the direction that he wants to point the budget committee in as some alternative.
More
He
information.
doesn't believe we're getting our bang for our buck in that program. He had all the data for that. Hopefully he'll share that again.
Right. So, but based on Matt's note, we're running about 22% of the load over there
Right, yeah.
at the rec
You
center.
might remember Melissa's presentation, Chuck. I don't know, you're on the board now, on the committee now. I believe you were.
Yeah, I think I was. Okay, next one, 4583 patriotic purposes. It was 700 for this year. I think last year was like 900 or
That was the one with we ended up with, the prior year, we ended up with the labor in it.
yes.
That I mistakenly put on the other one. Now, this is the one that had the labor in it, and then
Right.
we didn't get it. So we reduced it back down, and it looks like they didn't charge us labor again. Because we're up to 900.
They did charge us labor, I just have to check where it went, I guess. But I didn't order very many flags.
So they did charge us labor to put the flags out,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so it should have showed up in here then.
Yeah, I'm gonna check.
Do we know?
Yeah, because it's, I mean, it's 650, one,
250.
so they must have put the labor under patriotic purposes.
I know like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we had run out of flags. And I remember Chris had done a pretty good size order, which was supposed to give us for 2 to 3 years. With what you ordered this year, were we able to cover everything we needed, or do we have an extra supply if needed, or is it?
We have some, I just made a note that if we have budget left over, maybe ordering them before next year.
That's what I'm going with my
But I'm
thought.
gonna order them with the bigger towels.
That could be the reason why we didn't go over this year if labor was included, because we already had the stock.
We did,
Right,
Because previous year, we had to buy, plus they charged us labor for something we had never seen before.
so that's why, if it's a case where we need to
So
order
the stock
some,
may have been
and we've
different.
got the labor, around 700 might be close.
We've always paid to have them put the flags up.
They never charged
They never
any,
charged us
they never charged labor,
this year, the first year.
previous budgets. It was always just
Oh,
material.
I saw bills for putting flags out.
Oh,
It
last
wasn't
year.
ever showing up on the
I don't know
budget.
where it went, but
Okay.
Yeah, it was never showing up on the budget sheets when we pulled the runoff
yeah,
for far as this.
well, maybe
never
Claudia
showed-
can tell you what
maybe
she
the
charged
labor-
it again.
Maybe the labor went somewhere else and we didn't know. We
Right.
just didn't realize it just started showing up
Yeah,
a couple of
we
budgets ago.
paid them every year.
So that's probably why it just was a matter of sorting out the budget to actual to get it to show the reflective correct charge.
Correct number.
Yeah.
So,
do we have
That happens.
expenses coming up for Labor Day or Veterans Day, do we do anything?
So once you've done your little flag inventory with your increased dowel size, if we need to move this number up a little bit, we'll do that.
It may be cheaper this time of year.
It might be available.
Yeah.
And change the numbers because they weren't available. It was a hassle.
All right. Next item, 4619 Town Forester. $1,000 is what's been in there for like ever. And Mr. Libby basically has no intention of asking for more than $1,000.
Yeah, last year he said he didn't want mileage put in there, any of that. He was happy
He's
with that
comfortable with
stipend.
this stipend, so we're definitely getting our money's worth from Jeff Libby as our town forester. So make a
So
motion.
we should clarify that he is charging hourly and mileage.
Yeah, he is. I just paid a bill for him.
Oh, you did?
Okay, good.
So he
I
is
don't
putting
know
it
what it was,
Okay.
but there was mileage and. labor.
included on his bill? Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
It was 47.60 for mileage.
I think the whole thing is like 520 or something. Was it
760.
5 what?
760.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's gonna target $1,000 every
Yeah,
year, so.
So then
As it has been.
I'll make a
Really breaks
motion
it out.
to approve item 4619 town forester for a 2022 budget of $1,000. Second.
Second.
All right,
Aye.
debt service
I hope we don't need it.
placeholder. Make a motion for debt service 4711, that the 2022 budget be $1 as a placeholder to keep the line open. Second,
Second.
all in favor, full right?
Aye.
Aye.
Can interest 4723, line item of $1 to keep the line item open in the event it's needed. Make a motion to approve 4723 can interest for $1 for the 2022 budget season. Second,
Second.
all in favor, full right?
Aye.
Aye.
I like the next one being blank.
Meant to be your ads.
Capital reserves.
Me, I think it's sort of, I'd like to see what we did this year. To see what we got at the end. A little bit better and see how much reserve we have.
The unassigned
See if
fund
we
balance.
can. Yeah, well, actually, it's unused
Unused.
budget
Yep.
is what I would look at. I mean, it's kind of hard to see roll into the unassigned fund balance but this year. Was the excess that we had left over from the budget, what we can fund and what we can't before we start going anywhere else.
That's the process. It worked very well last year.
And just so you're aware that in all three of you know that the police budget coming up, the 40,000 for extra for retirement that we put in, that's the one we didn't talk about because it's just police, but I know that in the committee, I'm pushing, and we've already discussed it previously, that that money would be used somewhere else besides in the police budget. We put it there just in case, because we didn't have the chief in completely. We wanted to make sure what was going on. So
Keep
my
my,
thought is we keep it in the tax base and we move that into like bridges. We start funding the trust fund for bridges to what he's offsetting for his retirement. In case, excuse me, his retirement. Yeah, it is his retirement, yeah. And
And then
in
we have to hire
case
a
he
chief.
leaves and we have to hire somebody, we're not gonna see a huge tax spike just because we have to hire a full-time fire, police chief. So that's sort of where I'm heading with that when we get into the fire, police department budget. So you can chew on that, think about that, but that's where I'm proposing to the committee. Because I want to keep it in the budget and keep it in the tax base, just in case we need it if Joe leaves, which I hope he doesn't for quite a few years, because I could fund a bridge before we're done.
well, I just asked him, it's like, so can you plan on anything in the next 2 years? He said, no. So it's like, he should be around.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Well, the fun with bridge on there.
Did anybody have a problem with that? Think that logic? I mean,
No.
no? Okay.
Yeah, it just means we've got a big increase or something at the point. Okay, that's it for today. We hear a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll second
Second? Aye.
it. Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your effort.
This is the ones you voted on and Dave.
Get the clean one. You got the clean ones there? Perfect. Good.
Are you planning another sit down for the budget? To go over other items?
Yeah, we're
Just
gonna
make sure
the individual.
I'm not here, you email me, so
Oh, yeah.
make sure I'm here, or Leo's here. Try not to put it off on tomorrow.
Dave, I want to show you something I'm doing on the budget spreadsheet so that we can look at summaries quicker. I don't know if we're gonna do that today or another day.
Whatever it's convenient for you. I'm open if you want to look at it today. You wanna do another day?
I got the, I just looked at it too. Children's fund, children.
Unlimited,
Nope, the other one.
the other one, yep.
I got
There's
their
two
letter back.
children, yeah,
I got their letter back.
they wanted them. Oh, no, packet,
Yeah, just